Okay, Mr. Hayes,
Here.
Mr. Hunt,
Here.
Mr. Wright,
Here.
Mr. Kirby,
Here.
Mrs. Harrington. Here.
First item on the agenda is the aggregated expenditure limit presentation. Dr. Trump.
Mr. President, members of the board, I was asked by Dr. Battle to get together a presentation on the aggregate expenditure limit, which is an issue that has been hitting this state for the last couple of years. And so we're going to briefly go through this. If you have questions, stop me. I'm going to try to fly because we're a little bit behind time. So this first slide here just tells you what the aggregate expenditure limit is. It's a constitutional amendment that was passed by the Arizona voters in 1980. It created a spending limitation for school districts based on aggregate expenditure of all districts put together. Information excludes charter schools and only applies to district public schools. These three slides off to the right-hand side over here of the screen, or your left-hand side of the screen, show you the formula for the last 3 years. And the biggest thing I need you to know about the formula for the last 3 years is that there's only really 3 variables in this formula. The 3 variables in the formula are the number of student population, right? How many students you have. What they call the GDP implicit price deflator. And by the way, this graph over here is showing you what the GDP price implicit deflator is, and it's been going up. And the implicit price deflator has been going up because inflation's been going up. And the only other variable in here is the amount of aggregate expenditure limit school district dollars, but that's really computed off these 2 other variables. So it's an output variable dependent on those 2 input variables. Here's the big deal. In 21-22, the aggregate expenditure limit went down. And the reason the aggregate expenditure limit throughout the state went down from 5.735 million to 5.472 million is because of the decrease of students. And the reason we decreased in students is because of the pandemic, right? A lot of school districts lost students during the pandemic. This year, the aggregate expenditure limit is up to 5.8 million. But with the amount of money that's been influxed into K-12 during the June legislative cycle this last year, we're still above the aggregate expenditure limit. So as a state, we're above $5.8 million. So how do you get around being above $5.8 million in the aggregate expenditure limit? Well, the way that we've done it in prior years, prior to this year, is we've asked for a 2/3 vote of the legislature. And that's what has to occur this spring. Now, if you've been reading the papers, what was promised in the June budget cycle was that there'd be a special session called in November and December of this year, of this last year, 22, to cure this single issue up so districts wouldn't be in a panic right now in the spring, like we were in a panic last year in the spring. Unfortunately, that special session, for political reasons, and I'm not a political person, so I'm going to leave that one alone. You can go read on your own. I can answer questions on what the political reasons are, but that's not germane to our current topic right now. But for whatever political reasons, there wasn't a call for a special session in November and December. As a result, it is critical that in January and February, by March 1st of this year, that the legislature gets an initiative in front of them, a bill in front of them, and gives us a 2/3 vote to go beyond the aggregate expenditure limit for this year. The only other way to fix this is to get a constitutional amendment, and that's going to take voter authority to get that constitutional amendment approved. And so right now what's happening is we can spend as a state based on the budget about $5.8 billion. I said million earlier, $1 billion, and we're well above that cap. And I'm going to show you how much above the cap we are. But the real big thing you need to know is this formula, which was established in 1980, 2 variables with 1 output variable as a result. 2 variables, number of students, right, that we currently have. The other variable is the GDP implicit price deflator, okay? All right, so why is it important? If public school expenditures exceed the ADL, the Arizona legislature refuses to act by March 1st, 2023, then school districts will be forced to cut their budget by April 1st of 2023. There's some caveats to this that you need to be aware of. In that we'll be forced to cut our budget, but the cash flow won't stop. And I'll talk about this in maybe the 6th slide in this deck. We'll still get the cash flow. The cash will be coming in, but we'll have to cut our budgets by approximately 17% And that puts districts in a spot where they're going to have to make decisions. And we'll talk about those decisions in a second. What happens if lawmakers fail to act? Basically, Arizona public school districts, remember this doesn't apply to charters, will have to be forced to cut about $1.3 billion or 17% of their budgets. Okay? All right, so AEL options. The state legislature and governor move early in this legislative cycle to ensure 2/3 votes pass. Good news, Matt Gress, yesterday. Matt Gress, former board member in Madison School District up in the Valley, is now, I think, a House of Representatives member, if I remember right. And he's got HCR, that's House because of H. HCR Bill 2001, that's in front of the House, and that is an aggregate expenditure limit bill, right? The other good news is that I don't think we'll see as much gamesmanship at the executive level. So if the House and the Senate can get a bill up to the governor, we're not going to see as much gamesmanship with other kind of points of inflection for leverage on other issues because of the fact that public education is something that Governor Hobbs has already come out in a pretty big support of. Option 2, the inaction of state legislature and governor caused CGUHSD to have an emergency meetings in late February. We'll have to start having, if there's no inaction, we're gonna have to start having an emergency meeting in late February to reduce current year plan budget by approximately, to us, 17%, is about $6.6 million. So there's the next option. Option 3, the inaction of state legislature caused CGUHSD to have to exhaust the majority of their M&O carry forward amount in 22-23. Because here's what I'm going to try to explain this in layman's terms, right? We have $40 million in budget, and we're really above that, but I'm just trying to use round numbers. $6.6 million takes us down to $34.4 million. We're trying to save our carry forward for next year, right? So we really don't think we're going to spend all $40 million of our budget. So even though our budget goes down because the AEL doesn't pass, we're not going to spend through our whole entire budget because we're not planning to this year because we want to carry forward for next year. Is that good on our understanding? So if that doesn't happen, we can make the choice to just run schools as. The problem's going to be that in April, May of this year, you're going to burn through all your carry forward. And then you'll head into 23-24 with no carry forward dollars. And as we've discussed with the board in November and December, that then is going to present an issue with Fund 10 because you've not had a very solvent Fund 10, which is your classroom site fund because of prior purchases or prior expenditures. Sorry. So this sheet's public. Anyone in here can go look it up. This is our AEL sheet, and all it's doing is codifying that our 17% is about $16.6 million. The state's portion is about $1.4 billion that we're over the $5.8 billion. So the state's portion is $7.2 billion. 2 notes on here I want to make. If you go over there, the classroom site fund. That's a sales tax that is generated in the state of Arizona. The classroom site fund generates money that can be administered to a variety of different groups, job classifications within the district, teaching groups, as well as groups in 1900s, paraprofessionals, IECs. Classroom site fund used to not count towards the aggregate expenditure limit because it was voter exempt by the 2001 proposition. What happened was in 2018, the classroom site fund was that sales tax was renewed not by the voters, it was renewed by legislative vote. And when you don't have the voter protection, now classroom site fund gets counted in that overage on the aggregate expenditure limit. So one of the reasons we're pressed against the aggregate expenditure limit is because classroom site fund for 17 years didn't count against it because it was voter relinquished or not voter included. And then when the legislative branch enacted to continue classroom site fund sales tax through 2041, now it's not voter exempt, and now all those monies in classroom site fund count towards the aggregate expenditure limit. So that's that first over up to the left. And the next thing I want to tell you is that federal and state grants, carry forwards, and local tax levies do not count towards the aggregate expenditure limit. So all our federal grants, ESSER, the ARP Act, the Arizona the American Recovery Plan, that's on there, the American Recovery Plan, our federal Title I grants, our override amount, our bonds, we don't have bonds in this district, but bonds, they don't count towards the aggregate expenditure limit. So here's the final, what is 6.6 million? This is not a threat. If anyone's listening online or anyone's in the crowd, tonight, these are not threats, these are heuristics. Basically, I'm trying to tell people what is $6.6 million to this, right? So don't come out here saying, oh, they're gonna cut 104 positions. No, I'm just trying to tell you that $6.6 million is worth 104 positions, or approximately a third of our staff, okay? Example 2, Castrand Union has spent approximately $25 million on staffing this year, and the previous year. So this is about 26% of our salaries. $6.6 million is about 26% of our salaries. So there's another heuristic. And example 3, we spend about 75% of our funds through March 1st of every year. So basically, $6.6 million is like running a school on 3/4 of a year and giving a quarter furlough to all of your staff. Once again, I am not saying that those things are going to happen in Casa Grande. I want everyone to know what $6.6 million means to the district. And by the way, as of the last legislative budget that was approved, we are approved to spend approximately $43 million in this district. This would be a last minute, if the legislature doesn't take action, this would be a last minute reduction while basically you're in the 11th hour, right? And you're having a plan in February for March budget reductions. I'll stop at this time. I hope I covered AEL well enough for you. If you have any questions.
I was going to say, when we were last faced with this scenario, the board drafted a letter for the Arizona State Legislature. I would suggest that we ought to do the same this time. I would be happy to draft that as I did last time. But it would be, the unfortunate part of this problem is the only thing the board can do is advocate for lawmakers to do their job. And as such, it's important that we do so.
I'll make a motion that we have Toby write that letter and.
And wait, no, there's no.
We
motion.
actually don't need a motion.
There's no motion.
You just direct, we're gonna direct,
I can,
Taylor to write the letter.
I
and bring
can
it
get
back
the
to us.
script, absolutely. I can have that sent to you.
Submit it.
shortly through Mary.
Okay, thanks for the offer.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Strong.
Yeah, we have a few other things.
Item B,
Item B. C? What is C? I just don't want to go to the wrong presentation.
Budget and compensation consideration.
Very good. That's the one I want. Budget and compensation considerations. Where are we currently at with budget this year? On this slide, I'm showing you essentially where our revenues are at this year. One thing to point out, $1.8 million, $557,000 came in the June legislative appropriation. This is one of the reasons that we're over the aggregate expenditure limit. Well, one of the reasons we're over is because the state legislature themselves decided to raise base level support from $4,350 per student to $4,775 per student. So they upped the amount that we're contributing per student, and that brought in $1.8 million in base level support to the district. The 557 is a little different. The 557,000 is brought in through special education B weights and a brand new B weight for students living in poverty. So $557,000 was to help exceptional student services get administered in school districts and to help students with opportunities who are living in free and reduced lunch poverty situations. All total, we've been through this slide before, all total headed into this year, if the board wanted to burn through their whole entire carry forward, which we would not advise because we're not very solvent in Fund 10. I want to be really clear. Some of your solvency in Fund 10 is here, right? We could have spent $14.6 million extra dollars this year in this budget cycle. And if you have questions on this, on that side, I'll take you. But the big 2 points are, we had a $2.3 million influx in June, and we had 14.6 that we could have spent if we wanted to exhaust all carry forward. So then you go down to the expense side of the books. How'd you spend money, right? Well, first thing, we don't want to spend $8.3 million in carry forward. So the first thing we do to that $14 million, we subtract out the $8.3 million, and we say, hey, guess what? We only have 14.6 minus 18.3. We only have $6.3 million we can say we can spend. And then you go through and start going compensation, right? Extra staffing. Why extra staffing? Folks, this district's grown from 3,500 kids to 4,100 kids in the last 3 years. When you grow in students, you got to hire more teachers. You got to hire more staff. right? More security guards was another thing. We went from 5 security guards each site to 9 security guards. So you go through all your staffing, you go through compensation, what you're adding to compensation. In the end, as we're tracking our budget this year, we, at this point in time, are projecting that we're gonna have a $765,000 excess budget to deal with this year that can go to compensation, benefits, wherever the board so chooses to put it. We've been going through this with the IBN team, the interest-based negotiations team, and showing these numbers as they get updated on a monthly basis. Here's what you need to know as a board. This money back here, this 1.8 million and this 557,000, for large school districts like Chandler Unified, that was an $18 million number, right? Because they're 10 times our size. For Mason Unified, that was a $24 million number as opposed to 1.8. And if you paid attention to the papers in July and in August and in September, where did most of those school districts put, not all the money, but a large portion of the money? Question for you, yeah. It's a pretty easy guess. They put most of it into teacher compensation, right? That's why you saw Gilbert Unified raise their new teacher pay, brand new teacher pay right out of the gate to $52,500. Chandler Unified raised their salary. Don't quote me on this. I think it's $51,500 for a brand new teacher. Mesa, I think, sitting at $52,000 for a brand new teacher right now. Queen Creek raised theirs to $49,000, I think $900. So a lot of this new money that was influxed, districts have made a choice to put it towards their compensation package. Okay. Now, what did we do in this district? Well, to be honest with you, with the impending override in November of 22, guess what we did? We sat on it. We've done nothing with it. That's why you're seeing a $765,000 surplus. Does that make sense to you? So the business department, after learning the June 2022 base level support, we advised Dr. Battle on, hey, let's be a little patient with these new monies. This override's coming. If the override doesn't pass, it's worth $3.3 million. So you can see the balance there. New monies in CASA grant available for compensation and benefits typically are negotiated through IBM. And so if money came in June, it came late this year. Money came in June. We didn't have a July IBM because everyone's on vacation. You typically don't have August IBM interest-based negotiation because it's school startup. You don't want to bug teachers in the first month of school startup. And so we just started having IBM in September and working through the process of, we think we're going to have around $765,000 of money. The increase in base level support was intended, and you ask any legislature, it was intended to help out with compensation and benefits. Why? Because of the inflationary pressures going on in the compensation industry right now, right? Everybody, for us to compete with custodians with Lucid, it's going to cost us more money to compete with custodians with Lucid because of the inflationary pressures as Lucid continues to offer more and more money. Okay? So option one that we brought to the IBN team was administer the full $700,000 in ongoing compensation. Here's the drawback. With the November 22 override not passing, this is going to put financial pressure on us if the 23 override, if you call, sorry, let's be real clear. If the board calls for an election and a 23 override doesn't pass, and we give this out in compensation and benefits ongoing, then that's going to put pressure on the system to figure out how to cut staffing to get money back when the if and when the override's called for, and if and when the override's passed or failed. Sorry, if and when the override's failed. Option two: administer a portion of the $700,000 in ongoing compensation and benefits, and a portion in one-time benefits, kind of a halfway. You want to get half of that one time, get that money back. The advantage of giving the money out one time is in the next budget cycle you get it back, right? And then give some of it out in ongoing. The drawback to that is, hey, guess what? Ongoing raises in this district, the heuristic right now, a 1% ongoing raise for everyone's about $250,000. So once you start taking $700,000 and splitting it like the $350,000, you're talking about a small, minute percentage of increase in salary. Option three: administer the $700,000 of available funds in a one-time stipend. And so how much does that get? That gets every employee about $1,560. Once you include EREs, that costs the district about $2,000 per employee. And all total, after you multiply by all the employees, it's about $700,000 for the district. I have the line item in a second here. The advantage of this one, the drawback is for the employee, it's only one time. That's a drawback. It's only a one-time stipend, right? The benefit for the district is that money comes back in the next year's budget. And now if November 23 override happens to not pass, we have $700,000 of leeway to help us get through that first year when we're talking probably about $1.1 to $1.3 million in cuts. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. This has all been through the IBM process, went through the last IBM meeting. How does this work with the employee's contract is often the next question with the human resource side of things. Every employee's contract has contractual language in it, and it just says this: if additional revenues become available to the district through legislative appropriation, state sales tax revenues, or any other legal enactment, and if those revenues are appropriated, authorized, and permitted to be used for teacher salaries during the 22-23 school year, teachers shall be given a raise in salary if so approved by the governing board at sole discretion. So in other words, I'm saying we're not committing a contract violation. And I copied the teacher language here. It also applies to every other employee group in terms of language. Reality, the district did receive $1.8 million in base level support increase in the June 2022 legislative enactment. Most other districts through Arizona have already used this to increase compensation packages for employees. And here's kind of the line items out. IBM got to a point where they were saying, hey, if we could get the board to approve administering the $700,000, one-time stipend, that's probably the best advantage. I want to compliment IBM team members. I've been in IBM teams, meet and confer teams, where the fact of the matter is they don't really care a lot about the district's interests. And so I've been in IBM teams where, guess what, that would have been, we only are going to take ongoing raises. So it says something about the employees of the school district to come back and say, hey, we're willing to see how this override 23 goes. And in exchange, one-time compensation makes sense to help the district remain more intact and see if the local voters will support a November 23 override so this can become ongoing at that point in time. The plan of administering a one-time gross compensation payment of $1,560 all current employees would be administered hopefully closer to spring break. If you're wondering on the details, and it's the hope of CGUHSD payroll to administer the compensation payment in the first paycheck of March. They can't do it. If the board was to approve something like this, they can't do it right now because we're in W-2 1099 season, and we just are overloaded with our payroll technicians trying to get our W-2s 1099s out. So it's just a timing issue. And that's where we are currently with budget. We're currently tracking right on that $8.3 million carry forward number. And so this $700,000, if it's not expended, will probably track closer to the $9 million carry forward number. And we've been monitoring. We have monitoring spreadsheets we've set up and monitor every month. Any questions on the compensation presentation in the study session? I'm trying to fly because I know we're a little bit behind.
Questions?
No, that was very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Last one that was set up for this evening. See if I can, yep, is this one. This links back to the 1560 number, and so I'll probably try to blow this up a little bit because some of the print's pretty small. Here it is. One of the things we took IBM through in this process is comparing year-over-year salaries. And we can do this for every employee in the district. We're not going to mention employee names here. But what we want to do is be honest to the picture of the data of what's happened over the last 3 years in terms of raises and compensation. And so we took the IBM team through, this is FY 21 through 23 certified compensation examples. Your certified compensation examples are going to be your teachers. And what you'll notice is this line right here says that from 21 to 23, that employee number one has experienced approximately a 13% raise from 21 to 23, okay? That second employee down has experienced approximately a 14% raise from 21 to 23. And the third employee down has experienced approximately a 14.1% raise. Now, this is on the certified teaching staff from 21 to 23. The reason this is all important is as the legislator enacts more money in base level support, it is the expectation that more money goes into teacher compensation. And so we have to pay attention to this because the worst position school districts get themselves into is more money comes in and teacher compensation stays flat, right? Because then you go back to the legislature the next year and you're asking for an increase in base level support, and they go, we just gave you an increase in base level support, and it didn't make its way to the people we intended it to make its way to. right? So really important to pay attention to these numbers. The one thing I think the IBM team would want me to point out here, and why the 1560 number in the previous presentation is a little important. On the classroom site fund side of things, you'll see a negative $1,745 side of things, right? So teachers from last year to this year, when taking into account all their compensation, got raises. But with respect to classroom site fund, they are down $1,745 in classroom site fund from year to year. Does that make sense to everyone? And that's because of the way in prior years the classroom site fund was administered. So what you'll hear from the IBM certified staff, and I'm not trying to speak for them, but I think I'm telling their truth right now, is the 1,560 kind of makes them whole for what they lost in the $1,745 on the classroom site fund side. Okay, so that's an important point here. Then you go down and look with the IBM team at exempt salaries. Your exempt salaries are for employees that are typically contracted salaries, but they're not certified teachers. And so you'll see on the exempt, here's employee 3 that got an 18.2% raise from 21 to 23. There's employee 2 that got a 9.9% raise. There's employee 1 that got a 9.2% raise from 21 to 23. The good news is every employee got a raise. You might ask the question, how did employee 3 get more of a raise? That's because employee 3 got promoted. Employee 3 went from a position that was lesser pay to a position that was more pay because they applied for and got a job that was a promotion. Then you go over to the classified examples. These are your hourly employees. And you have employee 1 who has gotten a 16.3% raise from 21 to 23, employee 2 that's gotten a 9.5% raise, and employee 3 that's gotten a 20% raise. Once again, employee 3 on this classified side was someone that was in a job classification where this last July, the board decided to attract employees in both security, classified, and grounds to give an extra job classification bump. Well, this employee got that job classification bump and had been in that job classification for a long time. And so that bump allowed her to get a little bit more of a pay raise. Okay, and then you have the administrator side of things. On the administrator side of things, employee 1, 92.2% raise from 21 to 23. Employee 2, 9.2% raise from 21 to 23. Once again, that's across 2 years. And employee 3, 9.2% raise from 21 to 23. Trying to fly here. Good news. Good news is this. Employees by this governing board have been getting raises 21, 22 to 23. More difficult news on the classroom sites fund side of things, teachers experienced a decline of $1,745. The reason this is important for today's conversation is now that hopefully makes sense on why the $1,560 of the $700,000 of ongoing money in M&O kind of makes them whole compared to the last year. The final thing that I kind of flew by here because I'm trying to fly is I want to have a little bit of a daily rate of pay conversation, right, with you. And so let's go back here from the certified side all the way down to the administrative side. And daily rate of pay is a difficult conversation, but all I'm doing with you right now is sharing data. I need to be really clear with you. I'm not inventing data. I'm not trying to tell the story of the data. It's your story to understand for yourself. I'm just trying to share data. So employee 1, teaching staff, certified staff, daily rate of pay, because they're on a 206 workday calendar in last year, was $456 a day. Hourly rate of pay then breaks down to $57 an hour for employee 1. Okay. Employee 2, daily rate of pay breaks down. Employee 2 daily rate of pay breaks down to $379 a day because they're a 206-day employee, and that breaks down to an hourly rate of $47 an hour. Employee 3, teacher side, you can see it right there. Exempt employee. Here's an exempt employee example. Daily rate of pay. Now, these employees are 216-day employee on the top one. The 216-day employee is making $475 a day or $59 an hour. The conversation this then centers around is because they work 10 more days, their annual salary looks bigger. But when you start looking at it at a daily rate of pay, compensation-wise, or an hourly rate of pay, their daily rate of pay and their hourly rate of pay compare very well with teachers. Does that make sense to you? But they make more money because they work 10 extra days. Does that make sense? Okay. Employee 2 here, $236 a day, $29 an hour. But this employee works 261 days. So to make up the extra annual amount, they're working 261 days for us out of a given year. You keep going down with this, you have classified examples in here of classified employees. Most of our classified employees end up being 261-day employees with the exception of a few job classifications. And then you go to the administrator side, and on work days, our administrators are 261-day employees. The daily rate of pay for that top administrator, this is actual data, is $390 per day and $48 an hour, right? And then for the second administrator, it's $394 a day and $49 an hour, right? And so, you know, you start to compare annual salaries for employees. One of the reasons why employees' annual salaries are different is because some employees work 206, some employees work 216, some employees work 191s, some employees work 261s. And so all that data from an HR perspective and a business perspective, I need you to know we pay attention to it all, right? Because in the end, people are giving up extra days of their life to earn extra money. And the question on the salary side of things is, are you basing your salary on the 5 HR SHRM categories that you should be basing your salary on? What's the risk involved? What's your working conditions? What's the knowledge set you have to have? All those SHRM conditions that come into play on how you scale your salaries out for employees is really, really important. So we have to pay attention to annual pay, daily rate pay, and hourly rate pay. And the essential questions from an HR and business point of view are these, right? What are our observations with salary increases from 21 to 23? Do these data points suggest that any job classification has taken a salary reduction? We answered that in IBM. No, we haven't been reducing salaries, right? Do these data points suggest that any job classification received larger increases in 22 and 23, right? And the answer to that is because classroom site fund went up in 21 to 22, teachers got the largest increase in 21 to 22. 22 to 23, teachers are taking a $1,745 cut in classroom site fund. That's just the data, right? And so that hurts their overall raise package across M&O when they take a $1,745 hit in one of the funds. They still got a raise, but their total raise package percent-wise isn't as much because in one of the areas they got paid, they got a reduced amount of money. Does that make sense to everybody? Still got a 2% raise, but in one of the areas they got a reduced amount of money. And so all these questions are questions we're going to continue to ponder as we continue to grow here. Do daily rates of pay matter? Do hourly rates of pay matter? And I don't want to take you through the rest of the questions, but I just need everyone to know that we're looking at employee data, that we're examining the data on an annual basis and going, do our structures for how we compensate people make sense, right? And the biggest thing I need everyone to understand is we're not making decisions based on whims, right? Data is driving the decision. We're looking at the data going, does this make sense based on what the data is telling us to do? Does this make sense in comparison to the market? Folks, you got a 41,000, about a month ago, month and a half ago, you had a $41,000 base salary pay for a teacher, right? Market says that's not even close. And so the last action that was taken by this governing board, it went up to 50,615. Yes, off the top of my head, 50,615. And we're going to have to continue to pay attention to this year in and year out if you want to continue to attract high quality, high professional employees to Casa Grande so we can drive learning outcomes. The number one in-school factor in student learning outcomes is the educator, the teacher, by a long shot. I taught for 13 years. The number 2 in-school factor is leadership. And that's what research says across the board. So if you want high quality education, you're going to have to continue to look at your salary schedules year in, year out to make sure you are putting dollars into those 2 areas because that's what's going to drive outcomes for kids. Questions?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Ray, if I might?
Yep.
Yes.
That's about it.
So, one, thank you very much, Dr. Strong, for the very clear and detailed presentations. And again, it's important for us to make sure you all are fully informed as you must be fiscally responsible to make good quality decisions on behalf of this school district. So thank you very, very much. And as you know, part of our process, if you have any questions at all, I know we went through, but a little quicker possibly because of the time element. But please know, we are here to answer any questions you might have moving forward on any one of these presentations. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going to move out of the special session and move into the regular session. Does anybody need to take a quick break or we're going to move straight in? Go ahead.
Sorry,
Okay.
is there,
Microphone's on because we can't hear you folks back here. Pardon me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to tell on Chuck, but I don't think he pushed the button.
I'm very sorry. All right, we'll call the order and Mary will call the roll call.
Okay, Mr. Hayes,
Here.
Mr. Hunt,
Here.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Here, or what was the
We're doing
question?
yes or no?
Calling to order.
Calling to order.
It was a
Yes.
raise for me.
Sure, you could. We need a microphone for Mary as well.
We have folks that want to come
We
in.
have a
If we
large
just pause for a moment, so that
We're gonna
folks
move
in
the chairs for the
That
cabinet.
sounds good.
Yes,
Why
thank you very
don't
much.
we pause
Let's
that for
welcome
a
again.
minute?
And if we need more chairs, my staff.
We were gonna
will
try
be
to
down
put
there.
chairs for the cabinet.
No, but you got in.
I remember.
I might take a few pictures.
I did the ship, I'm not. Excuse me, I'm sorry. No, you're fine. You're A-okay. You're still here.
Almost got you for the guy.
I'm gonna run these back towards zero.
I get those.
Action comments.
One more.
You want to have extras, that's always good.
How would they do on a student presentation?
Yeah, they do. They tell us, how are you? Good, thank you. Too long, huh?
Congratulations, what's going on? Thank you.
All
I
right.
get to see you like twice a week.
Ready?
It's a rare production.
All right, next. We have,
I'm not
order
skipping
now
off.
will stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, if we can have a moment of silence for Lord, we're gathered here for a lot of public comment, and please help us keep it to the point and enjoyable. Amen.
Amen. All right.
Section number 2, we're gonna adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second. Been moved by Taylor and seconded by Mr. Hunt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Hay,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
Motion passed. We're going to, the minutes of the past meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes from December 6th, 2022, and January 3rd, 2023 as presented.
Kelly, I think our audience would like us to read through them live first. Just kidding. I second her motion.
Been moved by Kelly, seconded by Taylor.
Mr.
Any
Hay,
discussion? Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes,
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
thank you. Move down into number 3, your recognitions.
Yes, it'd be my pleasure, Mr. Wright, governing board members, and yes, this is good stuff right here. What I'd like to ask would be for the building administrative reps, as well as Ms. Miller to come forward. And what we'd like you to do, so if you have not been here, is to ask the recipients to make sure you come on up when your name is called and you see your administrator. And then after that, we'll ask that you take a photo, family members, you'll be asked to stand, and we kind of set the stage till you come on up with us, we'll take a photo, and then you get to the walk of fame. The board members want to shake your hand, okay? So it's a good to do. So I welcome you, parents, family, recipients, community members to this opportunity to recognize kiddos or students, I should say. And with that said, I'd like to make sure that you know there will be a session that we may say you can go, and then that, you're more than welcome to go do some homework. How about that? Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Ms. Nancy?
Hello, hello. Good evening, Board President, board members, and Dr. Battle. Victoria, come on up.
You don't have to if you don't want to. I know there's a lot of people here. But Victoria, I'll come over here to her so you can see who she is. She deserves recognition. Victoria Banda is being recognized as the December Innova Rotary Student of the Month. Victoria is known to be a hard worker and does not make excuses. She's been recognized for her attitude and her academic performance throughout her high school career. She is an artist with a passion for creativity. She was selected for her talents and her artwork, which can be seen online, specifically the anime style. She has a love of animation and would like to attend Full Sail University to pursue a degree in animation. Her parents are Gilbert and Sharon Banda. Her advice to the student body is that she aspires to be herself every day, so she encourages everyone to find out what works for them the most and consistently do it to the best of their ability.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. No, okay, it's not a mandatory, okay, but thank you so much. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone, Board President, board members, Dr. Battle. I would like to introduce the Vista Grande Rotary Student of the Month, and that's Mr. King Caldwell. Come on up. Kenyon is one of our student athletes, and I emphasize student. Kenyon works hard in the classroom. That's not on this sheet, but I've had the pleasure of knowing Kenyon for the entirety of his high school career. And I don't think that he's ever been on the ineligible list, and he works hard to make sure that he's doing what he needs to do inside the classroom. He played basketball the first 2 years of high school. He's also played all 4 years of football. He has been the captain of the Spartan varsity football since his junior year. His coaches have recognized him as one of the most dedicated and committed members of the team. He always participates in the summer football training program, attends all football practices, and gives his all at every game. He's an active community member. He regularly volunteers to babysit for his neighbors and community members in Arizona City. He has volunteered to restore a community basketball court by laying cement, repainting the court, and replacing the nets for the basketball hoops. He is also an equipment manager for the Phoenix-based men's and women's flag football league and records action clips during the flag football games. He plans to attend Central Arizona College and earn an associate's degree in business management. His career goals manage his own independent consulting business. Kenyon is the son of Veronica and Anthony. I know she's in the crowd. Would you please stand and wave? Once again, Mr. Kenyon Caldwell.
Welcome.
Thanks.
I'll be around.
Okay. Thank you, Mary.
Good work on that.
Good evening, Governing Board President, Mr. Wright, and Governing Board members, Dr. Battle. It is my pleasure to have Grant Johnson join me up front to be recognized as Casa Grande Union High School's January Rotary Student of the Month. parents, Brian and Julie Johnson, stand and be recognized. His parents and grandmother have been his biggest supporters throughout his high school years. Grant has been a volunteer, received hope, has excelled in both math and science, and has taken both honors and college level courses. He has been recognized as CGUHS Outstanding Algebra 2 Student Award. He has also excelled on the field playing football. He was this year's varsity football captain and starter. He has played for a all-region second team defensive lineman, and he was part of the 21 football state championship team. He has received offers to play football at the next level. After high school, Grant plans to attend one of the 4-year Arizona universities and play football. He has yet to determine his course of study, but will most likely pursue a degree in business. Congratulations, Grant.
CASU or U of A? Except for debate. It's all right. Oh, my God.
Hey, photo bomber. Hey, that was Dr. Battle told
He's practicing.
Get your bus.
President Wright, fellow board members, Dr. Battle, I'm here to present the CTE Student of the Month at each campus. We are a little behind in one campus, and that's because we had a student from Union who was unable to attend the November meeting. She is here this evening to be recognized, and that is Hannah Hartman. Hannah's parents are Travis and Mandy, and I saw them earlier. I think they're still with us. So Hannah was unable to be here the last time because of a very important reason. She attends class at CIC, and there was a scheduling conflict, and she chose class. Good girl. So she's recognized by the construction technology teacher, Mr. Wagner. The challenge here, he says, is to minimize a description of someone as talented and inspiring as Hannah in 150 words or less. She embodies the word challenge, pressing hard to reach goals early in life. Currently taking construction at Union, she's also attending evening classes for her EMT certification at CAC, a 9-unit course. She is the Skills USA president for the construction division, managing community service projects, fundraising, and keeping Wagner on his mark for what's next. She has earned 2 nationally recognized construction certificates, and in the spring will work towards another. She's earned high scores on the technical skills assessment for construction from the ADE. And did I mention she likes to watch otters on the Monterey Sea Aquarium website? Interesting. Hannah?
Inspection.
Yeah, it's good somehow. Hannah has the respect of her peers as a person who knows what to do in all situations. Even at home when she wires up the broken 4-way switches for her dad. And on top of all this, she's an explorer at the Eloy Fire Department. I guess one word would have been sufficient. Incredible.
Very good.
Where are you? Where we are.
Yep.
Congratulations. There you go. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And
Who's gonna pick stuff when she moves out?
And now I'm up to January. So I will honor another Union High School student at this point, and this is in the Culinary Arts Department. Kenyon Lee Francis, would you come up and join me, please? Kenyon's parents are Bradley and Shawnee Francis, and I know they're here because I just talked to them. Kenyon is a third-year culinary arts student. She's currently an intern and assists in helping guide the first-year students in cooking labs, and she participates as a peer tutor. She's consistently going above and beyond in class. She's an excellent student and a wonderful peer to the students in class. She's always ready to participate or do anything that is asked of her in class. She has a bright future ahead of her. And all of that was stated by Mr. Travis Brady, our new culinary arts teacher this year.
He's right with us.
And he's right here. I knew he was here live.
Parents, come on up. We can take a step forward so she doesn't squeeze us. Congratulations. Well done. Congratulations. In your name, Jake. We'll see you soon. Well, thank you.
Oh, Mary.
Okay,
Here we go. Thank you.
Awesome. Please. You know, pleasure. This way. Okay, parents as well, please. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And from Vista Grande High School Culinary Arts Department, the honoree tonight is John School, Oma Ferrari. And she's joined here with her father. And unfortunately, where's his name? Mr. Barry Epstein. And I'm going to share the words with her teacher, Ms. Amanda Evans. Janet Toole is a very good student. She comes to class prepared and enthusiastic to learn on a daily basis. She has a wonderful attitude toward others, learning and being a good steward. She's always in class early and willing to stay late, helping with cleaning dishes from a previous class. Her integrity and leadership skills stand out far above the rest of her peers. She places great effort and has excellent character through compassion, honesty, trustworthiness, optimism, and her responsibilities. She demonstrates respect for teachers and peers, shows excellent behavior when the clock is down and in the last few minutes of class. She stays calm, cool, and collected until the task at hand is complete and free of errors. Her work is of great quality and pleasing to the taste. Janet Toole is able to follow the directions enough where she's able to lead her group. Integrity is her name, and it shows in all the work that Janet Toole prepares. She demonstrates self-discipline, diligence, punctuality, and is extremely courteous to her entire team. She's the cook you would want on your team if you want to be a winner. She is a winner.
What teacher is, any chance? Sorry.
There we go, good. 1, 2, 3.
Very nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Did you do the special recognition already?
Yes, sir, it'd be my pleasure to do so.
Yep.
At this time, I'd like for Katie Kramer as well as Melanie Withrow just to come on up. I'd like to recognize you and I'll wait till you get up here and actually, Katie, if you want to share why you're here and what wonderful things have happened with Melanie, that'd be fantastic. And then you get to take the Walk of Fame as well.
Hello, my name is Katie Kramer. I'm the head coach at Union. Melanie is my varsity cheerleader. Over the summer, we attended a cheer camp up in the valley, a 3-day camp, where they compete amongst various teams throughout the state. At this camp, they host something called All-American. So they're hand-selected by the staff members who are collegiate cheerleaders to handpick a certain number from each team to try out for what they call the All-American team. They must have a minimum score in not only cheering and dancing, but tumbling, showmanship, performance aspect, all aspects of it being a cheerleader. And Melanie was selected at the competition of having that score, which is an achievement in itself. In that, they also reward these members or these girls that are selected for the All-American team to participate in the Pearl Harbor Memorial Parade in Hawaii over Pearl Harbor Memorial Day. And Melanie was able to take that trip this past December, and meet thousands of cheerleaders, participate in the parade, and represent not only her state, but her school, and of course the Cougar Spiritline program. So we are so thrilled that not only does she have all the aspects of being a cheerleader, top All-American cheerleader, but that she was able to represent us in Hawaii amongst all of her peers. Parents want to come on up?
So proud of you. Good to see you again. Yeah.
Sorry, we always touch
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we moving down to item B, the employee recognition.
Yes, President Wright, governing board members, and committee. I am pleased to recognize Mr. Ralph Bellick as the staff member of the month. He has been instrumental over the past 18 months in ensuring that the operations team within Casa Grande Union High School District is functioning efficiently and optimally. His leadership has resulted in significant building renewal grant dollars flowing to our district, relieving the capital budget and M&O budget of financial pressure. That takes a lot of work and effort, foresight, and time. During the last 6 months, Mr. Bellick's team secured grant dollars for cooling towers, replacement of Vista Grande High School of the amount of $432,000. Additionally, the emergency roof repair of the Alaski, I confirm pronunciation of that, at Union at $40,000, and a complete roof replacement at Union at $3.9 million. Further, our preventative maintenance plans put into place by Mr. Bellick and his team have ensured that the district has met the requirements to qualify for these grant funds from School Facilities Oversight Board. The PRG dollars are to be released to the district who do not have maintained their equipment. Who have not maintained their equipment. That's important that I share that correctly. I personally want to say that from start to every day, Mr. Bellick has served with his heart and his best. He's passionate about developing leadership amongst his team. His desire is to make sure that his team has the capability and the opportunity to move upward. That was a part of his interview, and that's been demonstrated in his daily work. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for all that you do your heart and passion is in your work, and it is instilled in your staff. And if I might, may I have his staff stand who's here to represent him and recognize him as well. That's what you can tell, they kind of like him. And we too. We appreciate you, and then I'd like to have your wonderful, amazing family to please stand. Yes, ma'am, come on out while I say that. I must say that leadership does matter. It is influential throughout the workplace and the culture and fabric of this district. And I just want to say thank you, if I haven't said it enough, for all that you do and all you are to this district. Thank you, Mr. Raphael. I want you to around this wonderful man.
Where is this? Here.
Oh.
One, two, three.
Congratulations.
Okay, now we'll move down to item 4, student body president's presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. At this time of the year, I thought it'd be very important for us to give an update from both sides' student body officers or presidents. And I know Mrs. Rosenbaum is going to get those situated and they will present an update for their schools. We have with us student body president Anika Gates from Vista High School and Cadence Khan from Pasadena Union High School. Thank you very much, Ms. Wolf.
Good evening, can you guys hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Alright, I'm Cadence, Union Student Body President,
My name is Annika, and I'm Mr. Grande, student body president.
and we're giving you all a recap of semester 1 student council activities. So we're gonna start off with, Union's activities. We had a lot of events to raise school morale, one of which being homecoming. We sold almost 1,000 tickets this year, which was a lot compared to last year. We also planned a couple of spirit weeks. I think we did around 3 or 4. And we also got a lot of participation in that, which was really exciting. And we've come up with a lot of new ideas in class, and we all get, I feel like the school just gets really excited and student council gets really excited to plan the spirit weeks. We also had the homecoming parade during homecoming week. We included a bunch of different clubs around campus. We had clubs from cheer to dance to ag, all have their own floats, and each of our student council classes built their own float and had a competition, which was a lot of fun. We also did a door decorating contest near finals time to raise both students and teacher spirits before winter break. We made it a contest because we felt competition always, gets people excited, and the winners got some donuts sponsored by student council. We also did a couple community service events. We planned a Veterans Day dinner And we invited veterans around the community to come and have a free dinner, and we honored them that night. We also did a bleacher cleanup, under the bleacher cleanup before homecoming. But this next semester, we plan to do some more events. Just recently, we talked about volunteering for a community event on Martin Luther King Jr. Day and volunteering at the county fair over spring break. We also developed our own skills as students. One of the most important things was leadership. In student council, it's all about participating and being a role model. And we get ourselves excited and we become outgoing and, do all of these events so that we can get our school inspired and other people around happy. We also do a lot of event planning, just recently seniors planned homecoming, juniors are planning prom, and as student body, we plan pep assemblies. So all of this is like large events, and there's a lot of planning going into that, a lot of budgeting, contacting, so we got a lot of skills just planning those large events. Lastly, we also learned that communication is really important. We want to provide everyone in student council up-to-date and quick information, and we do this through using apps like Remind, creating group chats, and planning consistent weekly meetings. We learned that it's very important so that we don't spread misinformation and make sure everyone's up to date. We also participated in our Arizona Association of Student Council events, one of which was the President's Luncheon. Our student council officers got to have lunch with other student council officers around Arizona, and it was very interesting to have lunch and to talk to them and get ideas. Collaborating is really important, and we like to bring their ideas back to our schools and give them our ideas. We also went to a spirit conference at Basha High School. Our entire student council got to go, and we get to dress up as a spirit day. This one was the road to leadership, so we dressed up as traffic directors. It was a lot of fun, planning our outfits, and we also got to get excited with other student councils. We got to see all of their costumes. Overall, it's really fun to just get excited to build your communication skills and your leadership skills. We're also planning on going to a state conference at the end of January. It's sort of the same idea as our spirit conference. It's just a 3-day conference this time, and one of our own members in student council, our student body treasurer, she recently got selected to run for state president. So she gets to give a speech, and we all get to help her campaign. So we're really excited for her. Lastly, we did a lot of fundraising. Juniors are planning prom, so they need to fundraise a lot. One of the things they did was boo grounds, and they sold little candy bags that they could deliver to students on Halloween, which was really interesting and really fun. They got to send it to whatever student they wanted. As a student body, we also sold cookie dough, and we did a gear drive selling merch, school merchandise, to both students and teachers. And lastly, we did football concessions, which would open up to any clubs, but our club as well, we did student council in each of the classes to help them fundraise for their own events.
Hi guys, so my name is Annika, and Mr. Grande Student Council semester recap. We have a lot to base off of. This slide is not. But this one, there's no information, we have information.
Fill in the blanks for us.
So a little bit of our leadership training then. We have our weekly class meetings. So I, as student body president, run those. And I talk with my advisor at the beginning of the week. And then whatever information we feel is necessary to get out, I go ahead and I share with my council. So we have our weekly meetings where we plan for the week. We talk about anything that needs to be approved, fundraisers for other clubs that need to be approved, and our reflection of our weekend events. If we ever had an event over the weekend, we talk about those. We have our committee reflections at the end of the week that we do every week. We have our members fill out a form that kind of goes over what they did for the week, how they felt their committee did, and then what they feel needs to be done for the next week. We also do our activity reflections. So after any pep assembly, any dance, any homecoming events, we talk about those and we kind of fill out a form, different questions of different things that we feel we did good with and things that we need to improve on. Another way that we teach leadership in our council is through our VG News. We have a student news show every week that we coordinate with other clubs and other sports, getting out all the news for the week, letting our students know to participate in these types of things, where our council members are able to build leadership by being able to work with their equipment and talking about presenting, public speaking. Next, we have our activities and our events. So we did have our freshman first day, where our council was able to introduce all the incoming class of freshmen at the beginning of the year to our campus and to our different activities and sports and clubs that we offer here at Vista Grande. Another thing that we did that we learned from another high school at one of our spirit conferences was a SOCA Senior. And with our SOCA Senior, we had students purchase buckets of water that they were able to choose a student council senior to dump a bucket of water on, which had a lot of participation. We had a lot of fun. It was very cold, ice water. We also have our spirit weeks, of course. We have a picture of our black and gold day up top of our Spartan Pride. And then our pep assemblies, of course, our spirit sections, and then our senior night posters and our acknowledgements. So for senior nights, we like to make posters and send offs for the different sports and the different clubs that we have at Vista Grande, just to let them know, hey, you did it. So, and then of course our homecoming weeks. Our homecoming week is one of our biggest weeks that we plan. So we have our spirit week, we have our float building, we have our lunch games, our powder puff game, our bonfire, our car smash, and then of course the parade that we had the float building through the 2 weeks before, so that each club can demonstrate what their club and stuff is for our the rest of our students and our staff. And then of course our Spartan Fest, where we have different organizations and we have our clubs have booths out in our commons area for our students, our student body to go ahead and check out during that time. And of course before our game, our tailgate, and then our homecoming game mascot race. We had the different businesses, Sonic, Buffalo Wild, Chick-fil-A, have a mascot race during our game. So these are all our activities that improve our school morale. Next, we have our community service. So we have our bigger projects this year, this semester, where we went to the St. Vincent de Paul thrift store, where our council sorted clothes, books, furniture. And then we have our 9/11 service day at CG Mountain, where our council was able to clean up around CG Mountain. Of course, we have our school cleanups, where we clean up after the bleachers after football games, and of course our regular scheduled campus cleanups, where we have our students participate in cleaning up around campus and our parking lots. And then we have our city street cleanups. Our city organized the student council adopted street, Arizola, and our council goes along all the way down to Florence, picking up trash. So that will leave us, since July, our council has had a combined total of 1,800 hours of community service. And this slide is also not showing up, but I'll go on with this one. So for our charity donations, we've had a grand total of $928.31. Going to charities, we have our powder puff game, where we raised the donation, the gate fees. The donation at the gates was $350, and then of course our canned goods that was valued at $150. That all went to our Casa Grande Food Bank. And then we had our car smash, where we raised about $150 that went to our AAC JDRF program charity. And then we had, of course, our student body Christmas Angels, that student body spent about $222, I believe, for 4 Christmas Angels that we had. And then we also had a Toys for Tots toy drive that had about $150 as well. So that grand total was $928.31. Lastly, we have our Arizona Association of Student Council participation. So on August 29th, our council went to the Spirit Conference held at Basha, where we were able to meet with other student councils and bring ideas back to our council. And then, of course, our presidents and vice presidents also attended that president and advisor luncheon on November 3rd, where we also were able to meet with other presidents and vice presidents to bring more information back to our council. And that would be all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, ladies. Dr. Battle, can you give us your superintendent's report?
It'd be my pleasure. For our staff that's in here, a little bit of a repeat, but I'm not gonna go through it all while Mary shares it. I'd be remiss, and I just want to again welcome Mr. Hayes and Mr. Hunt to the governing board. And so what I have on here.
You're gonna do a little dance for us, Mary.
Yeah, just push it, just push the slide. Go to the next slide.
Oh, is that on that slide?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
scared me for a minute. No, I didn't have my radio.
Yeah, you can go to the next slide. And then we'll be good. So on the next slide, it's not any surprise to this governing board what the mission and vision, if David, you can give your hand, that'd be great. But some highlights based upon a few, I'm not going through it all, but it's important that we stay focused because I do. What we do, what we plan for, what we strategize for, the data that we use to make informed decision is absolutely embraced in your strategic plan, in our strategic plan. So the effective and efficient communication, which talks about clearly timely and accurate open exchange with district administration, parent, staff, and community. Our site administrators, our district leadership, myself, and the community provide as much communication as we can and willing to do more. We embrace the community involvement evident of our students that came here today, promotes community and district opportunity that benefits our students, who is at the center of all decisions. Effective use of resources. The one thing I'd like to bring up on this is that to expand and ensure the use of relevant technology to enhance the educational process and student learning. Again, when you have a vision, mission, and strategic plan, you want to have evidence of, so that these aren't just mere words, but they're actually active. Additionally, you go to the next slide, please.
Which one are we on? Slide?
I may have gone out of order. Did I go out of order? I'll go back to the first one, please. The first one with the strategic plan. Yeah, so competitive educational workforce development. This is really important to our parents and our students who have goals to reach beyond high school. They're not finished once they walk across that stage. The universities, the colleges, the technical schools that they desire to go to, we hope that we prepare their talent for the future. And we also hope that they choose to stay here in Casa Grande for their college career and life. With that said, we develop and to engage our community and support in education career goals, which is what we're embarking on at this time. Viable curriculum that promotes high student achievement. This is in our strategic plan, develop personalized student learning that encourages creative and critical thinking. For positive, safe, and healthy learning environments, develop a positive school culture where students, staff, and administrators value building genuine relationships and create a positive school environment. That's collaboratively, definitely not one way. It's important that we do that together. If you would be so kind to go to slide 5. I just highlighted for the staff the first day back on January 3rd, what we talked about to start the school year. We talked about learning from each other, leadership's listening to you, leaning on each other, and letting us help you. That's from a servant leadership mindset that we want to make sure we provided those 4 L's from and across the district. If you go to the next slide quickly, please, I won't go long. So you can see the committee work, doing things together from the L's that I just shared with you. These are a few things that are evident of leaning on each other, learning from each other, and the other 2 L's. So our department instructional leaders working with our subject matter experts, as well as our PLC leads, as well as coming together, creating wildly important goals. What are those? Goals beyond the norm, goals that are sometimes not achievable, but we reach for the best that we can on behalf of the students that we serve. Coming soon, includes mastery time committee work. You see a lot of committee. That means there's deliberate action to incorporate different stakeholders into the decision-making process and evaluating data that we have and to keep our eye on the prize, which is our strategic priorities. Next slide, please. So the next slide talks about how do we lean in on each other? Well, leadership also listens. And that means, again, back to servant leadership. Well, we talked about these few things, but I can tell you, I want to commend the teachers and staff right now. At the beginning of the school year and sometimes still throughout the school year, they stepped up in a big way to help sub in some areas that did not have a teacher. They were able to work internally in the departments, and I just want to say publicly, thank you, teachers, for doing what you did to ensure that learning continued throughout, not only the teachers, all staff in the building. At times were not in their role that they were hired to do, but they did it willingly because they were here and are here for our students. So there's a glimpse of other couple of things. And then on slide 9, and then I'm done, we close with let us help you. So as our staff knows and our previous board, we made it a point to visit every other month, but every month to have breakfast, continental breakfast to our teachers and our staff so they can just talk to us one-on-one about anything and everything that they wanted to talk about. It was our pleasure to do so. We had collaborative meetings with CGA reps, classified reps, district representation, and site leadership. Those things were done strategically so we could listen and learn and collaborate and work together. We hired instructional excellence coaches to help support the learning environment. Those previously were called paras, and those are wonderful assets in schools, but we elevated them to know that they matter because they're impacting student achievement on the regular in the classroom. So I just want to make sure IECs, we absolutely love you. Student ambassadors, I meet once a month with representatives from each site, including Innova, and they're telling me, hey, this is what we need, Dr. Battle. This is what we'd like to do. And they get to develop relationships across the district in order to have the best district that we want to have. And what best districts value would be student voice. So that's an opportunity for students to voice what they'd like to see better or to tell us what we want to continue. It's important. Individual staff lunch with leaders, teachers. There have been on occasion where a teacher reached out and said, hey, I'm struggling with this. I need more information on that. Dr. Strong, Dr. Even, myself, made a point, let's have lunch. And I got to bring it and eat it. So it was all good. That's called building relationships. There's no marching order there. That's what you do when you serve others, is to provide every opportunity to listen and learn. And then there's a one-pager on the slide. I believe you have one in front of you. I won't go through it all, but what's really important is you get a glimpse of what we're doing on the regular. It's called CGUHSD, Integrating Instruction, Assessment, Curriculum to Inspire Excellence for All. That's a part of our mission. So you hear things like inspired excellence, as well as personalized learning, integral part of using technology, collaboration, leaning in on each other. That's what we're about. And that's what we want to make sure that our community knows, that we value your students. Therefore, that is the conclusion of my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. Now we're down to item 5 is public comment, where we're going to have all of the public. We have 17 cards that were submitted. So at 3 minutes per person, that's going to put us here for a while. I respect that each of you will be concise and limit your comments to no more than necessary. Be respectful of everybody else's time. We'll try to get to everybody. If you feel like that somebody before you has talked about exactly what you're going to talk about, you might consider participating. But we'd like to hear from you all. So the first one, Kelly, I need you to read the statement, please. Thank you.
Request to speak to the governing board pursuant to ARS 38-431-02-H. The board may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual board members may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the board shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. During an open call, the board requests that speakers refrain from voicing complaints against school personnel or any person connected with the district, as it may impact the due process rights. Policies KE, KEB, and KEB are provided by the board for disposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving individuals.
Thank you, Kelly. The first comment I have here is for Jerry Moberly.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Moberly, husband of Darlene Moberly, who's the creator and primary administrator for CGUHSD. First, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and congratulations to the new board members. My wife started CGUHSD over 10 years ago and has accumulated over 42,000 members. I'm enormously proud of the work that she's done with the group, along with other administrators and moderators. It turns out that numerically, about 50% of the adults in Casa Grande are members of the group. The group is private and cannot be changed to public by Facebook rules or as a point of practicality. But it remains a resource that can be used to get maximum reach to allow city leaders, board members, and anyone else who would like to respects. And it's generally frowned upon to bring up political subjects, unless they relate directly to local government, including schools. The aim of CGUHSD is to provide a place where positive changes can be made, as well as business and community event promotions, etc. It is acceptable to refer directly by name to any person in public positions. Otherwise, we generally frown on that. So it's encouraged that if you are called out by anyone in the group, that if you would please, engage on that so that we get some feedback as well. And the community is looking for that kind of feedback. It's very useful. If there's So in looking at the, there's something going together, and looking at the K-12 through 12 education system on a national level, we see a lot of things going on, such as introduction to CRT style curriculum, such as 1619 project, huge push on diversity, equity, inclusion, and now kind of a large focus on emotional microaggression issues. Kind of as a contest being pushed by teachers unions and federal education system, et cetera. In this state, we're pretty low on the academic standards. So we don't have a lot of room, I would say, to vector off into, other non-academic directions, and at least in my opinion, and many others. So anyway, after downloading the CASEL SEL framework document, is that my wording?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep it as quick as I can. It's got too much to do here. I noticed that looking at this document for the social emotional learning, framework that it's got a lot of red flags in there, in my opinion. And the 5 areas of competence in there are, sounds more like the parents' jobs than it does the school jobs, honestly. And the government for that matter as well. And so when it comes, so the question is that, you know, how do you know when the instruction there becomes antithetical to family values, you know, values that we as parents teach our children? You know, what about privacy in this case? You know, children's psychological issues can't be oversimplified or boilerplated, as it will. This system appears to be doing. So then the other question is, well, you know, shouldn't high school students by now have learned most of the concepts in that? That's the other question that we have there. So you know, way back in 2018, SEL cost the country $30 billion.
Mr. Mobley, you're at a little over 4 minutes now.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Can you wrap it up?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for running over. So anyway, kind of a question about, you know, is this the right, you know, use of our resources? Because it is significant amount of resources involving things that, you know, things like that, new school.
We're gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay.
We got many behind you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Second gentleman is our former board president, Jack Ennis. Jack, come on up and tell us what you got on your mind.
Good evening, CGUHSD board members. I have positive thoughts again to new members Hayes and Hunt on beginning your tenure representing the community, especially the kids of Cascade Union High School District. It's a big chance to ramp up and to get to know the operations of the district. I commented to Mr. Hunt that it is much like drinking water out of a fire hose to get up to speed. I was surprised, but not really, that the very first item on any agenda before this new board was an executive session to discuss the superintendent's contract. It wasn't about getting to know the district, how it operates. It wasn't about learning and touring schools. It wasn't about meeting and classified, certified, and all the support staff. And it was really not about asking about how things are going with the students and staff of Cascade Union High School District. None of those seem to be they seem to be of a lesser importance to some of the board. I believe a comment from a board member was, once I have 3 members to vote, we will run you out of town on rails. The comment was, once I have 3 members to vote, we will run you out of town on rails. From another member, it was, once I have 3 members to vote, another post on CG chat, I apologize, was I have met with many people who have provided me all the information I need, and my all-time favorite, with no backing of evidence or no information that was repeated often in front of this district board, was smoke and fire. I believe post-election, the Dispatch reported in an article reported that the first task, this was in the paper, this new board was going to be doing was going after the superintendent. Not once were facts actually brought forward to investigate. I believe most of the facts come from social media postings and direct contact by different people / groups to a few individual board members. I once asked the Dispatch reporter about these accusations, and the comment was, I have to deal in facts, and social media is somewhat less than truthful. People were willing to post or have other posts for them random things, but when it came to standing behind accusations, it got quiet. Social media has many positives associated with it, but it's also has a very dark and ugly side also that's propagated by many. I hope this board will be open and honest to the community in regards to their potential actions. There are huge legal, contractual, and reputational costs for Casa Grande Union High School District and this community as a whole. Casa Grande Union High School District already has a reputation in the educational community in regards to superintendent longevity. I believe we've gone through at least 6 in the past 16, 17, 20 years, something like that. About every 3 years seems to be the rotation. With so many positive things going on locally, when our relationship with the city of Casa Grande and their representatives The elementary school district, take me about 10 seconds to finish this. And many of the new businesses lose the COLA plus population growth and the challenge in Greens. I encourage you to do your due diligence. If there are problems, work on them and be honest with the community. In an open session, you should discuss the actual cost to the districts if you pursue this direction. Isn't the most important task of this board and the district to provide a safe and quality education? I have 2 sentences. I believe you gave the other gentleman about 10 minutes.
We're trying to save time.
Education opportunity to the kids of Castro Union High School, and I thank you.
Like I said, we have 17 of you here tonight. We want to get through you all. But we have 3 minutes, no more to give you. So be respectful of that time. Thank you. The next person is the former superintendent of this high school, Dr. Musio.
Mr. Wright, board members, thank you very much. I will be brief. First, I want to congratulate Mr. Hayes and Mr. Hunt. They ran a good race. I lost, and that's okay. I'm not here because I have sour grapes. Rather, I'm here because I was concerned. A word on the street was that 3 members have been meeting and talking about getting rid of the superintendent. And I think ultimately that's your responsibility, but I'm here to warn you. Not in any threatening way, but to warn you about the dire consequences of such an act. You need to do things in public. You need to do things transparently. Those are the things you need to do. The law should have taught you that when you went to that new school board orientation session. And so I ask you to be careful. Look at the facts, understand the truth. Don't sift through and decide what's rumor, what's fantasy, and what's gobbledygook, and what's true fact. And then present those. Do it that way, and you'll have the community behind you. But Dr. Battle hasn't done anything in her short time in the district that would cause her to be dismissed. Yeah, she stumbled a little bit, but who doesn't? And yet she's done her best to correct it. And in the short time she's been here, she's added more innovative things to this district than anyone, including myself, and I thought I was pretty good. So seriously, take your time, learn the district, learn the people. Every time I come to these meetings, I walk out full of joy because of the enthusiasm I see, the uniqueness of the district, and the quality of what's going on. Please take your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jose Munoz.
Hello, board. That was awesome. So 3 minutes. There's a lot of things that I wanted to share with you guys, but I was kind of surprised to see that there was a topic on your agenda about the grading policies, and I felt that I had to speak. I've been teaching in this district since 2005. I actually taught in this room back when it was Desert Winds. And one thing that always kind of bothered me was how we did grading. And the way we did grading, and you guys probably remember because it probably was under you too, was a 40-40-20 policy. That means quarter 1 was 40%, quarter 2 is 40% of your grade, and your final exam was 20% of your grade. And it always broke my heart at the end of the year to see kids hurt. Kids that busted their tails to get A's, and then they took a final exam, and now they had a B or a C. I said, man, how is that fair? So I was really happy. I mean, I've always been fighting and talking about grades and stuff. And I know that Mr. Matt, who was my principal over at Union, still is the principal, but he was my principal. And in 2019, we had a conversation about what can we do differently. I said, well, we got to get rid of some of these practices. 20% for final exam being one of them. 20% of your grade. So last year, I was fortunate enough to be invited to join the curriculum instruction team and now leadership and development. But last year, as we were revising our guidelines, I was asked to chair the grading committee. And I was pumped, I was excited. So yes, I am the chair of the grading committee. And one thing that we were able to do with a group of teachers, a lot of teachers, but some administrators and of course representation for myself, is that we were able to vote on getting rid of the 20% of the final exam, the semester killer, if you will. Because that's what it was. Kids would ask me, I was in tears, what do I need to get? If you're teachers, I'm sure you heard that before. What do I need? I just need a D. That should not be the question in kids' minds when they're coming in on their final exam. What do I need? So sad. And then 40-40, that was horrible too. I saw kids that busted their tails, probably failed quarter one, did an amazing quarter two. But because we averaged those two, those A's that were in second quarter, ended up being C's, maybe D's. How's that fair? Kids that bust their tails getting better, better, better. So, anyways, I joined and I agreed to have the difficult conversations with teachers and administrators because I value grades and what they're supposed to represent. It should be what a kid knows. Not if I like the kid or because he got the nice kicks. So we talked about these things and we had difficult conversations, and you know what? We still continue to have those difficult conversations because the work's not done. We have representation from teachers, administrators, and we continue to invite them. Join us, let's have these difficult conversations. Let's talk about what's best for kids, and that's what we're doing. We might not have it down right, but we're getting better and we're fixing our issues as we go through. Thank you for your time.
The next one up is Jared Walter.
I know there's 17.
Not part of your
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm honored to speak in front of everyone. I've been a part of the Casa Grande community since 2015. Kay Stewart and Tracy Robbins went all the way to New York, Syracuse, New York, to plug me out of the New York school system and brought me out here. Since then, I've worked in both the middle school and high school levels, so I've seen a lot. And I'm very invested in this community. I'm invested in the families, and most importantly, I'm invested in watching these students be successful. And on that topic, Mr. Munoz, that was a great segue, because I also want to talk about how we're grading them and take a real look at that. So first, mastery-based grading. It gives all of our students a chance to be successful. It doesn't leave behind the low students who are never going to catch up or stuck on that one unit. And it also challenges those higher level students to really think at a new level, one that they might not have ever thought at before. So the way I look at it is it takes the mastery-based grading policy combined with great teaching is going to lead to our students being more successful than they ever had and having a greater impact on our community, which in the end, we are all here to work with these kids to make Casa Grande one of the best communities in Arizona to live in. How it works, students are graded based on their knowledge of the content. We're not talking behaviors, and when they ace a mastery check, they see their grade go up. And they continue to work on from there. And that encourages them. Traditional based grading, you start at 100 and you watch every single mistake be your downfall. With mastery-based grading, you see every success lead to a higher grade. Now, is it being implemented that exact way? I think we're working on it. I think we have a great team to work on it, as Mr. Munoz said. And we're really giving the students the power. The students are now the owners of their education. We're teaching accountability. Another thing, I work with Mr. Morero and Ms. Jimenez. We do a lot of the discipline. Traditional grading, you get graded also based on your discipline, on your behavior in the classroom. Poor and inappropriate behavior does not deserve a grade. infraction. It deserves redirection and possible consequences based on the approved student handbook. Nowhere in the discipline matrix does it state that student grades should be impacted based on their behavior. However, sadly, we all know it to be true. A kid misses 8 days due to one vape in their pocket. They're now 8 days behind in education that they might not be able to redo. I just think that we need to consider that all as part of this mastery-based grading policy. And I do apologize for taking up. I know Mr. Wright, you mentioned be quick and concise, so I'm out.
We'll move on to item, let's see, we got one. Tony, did you want to speak in the general call?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you're up.
All right.
Tony's also a former board president. Thank you for his service.
Mr. President, board members, thank you for having me today. I want to start off by thanking all of you for taking this responsibility. I know it's a heck of a role to take on, but some people might call you crazy. They call me that quite a bit. And so to the new members, congratulations and welcome. And hopefully you have a lot of support here. If you need anybody out there, but please reach out. I spent a lot of time doing that and making sure, because you may come in here and sitting here for the first time, you have something in your mind that why you're here. Throw that out the window, because it's going to be a totally different reason why you're here after the first 6 months of knowing. When I came here, I have two children that were in junior high coming through here, and so I said, hey, I'm a native, I'm a third generation Cougar from Casa Grande, I'm gonna make a difference. The young man over here said something great. We want to make our children great here and excellent. That's what I wanted to do. But when you come down to do it, my kids are going to be fine. It's everybody else's kids that you don't see. And I sat down with Dr. Muzio, and he said something to me that really struck something to me. He used to put people on a bus and let them see all four corners of our community. And people don't realize what's past that reservation over there, or what's on Lemont Corner, or what's Gila River, or what's on Anderson Road, or the time it takes to get from there to here. So when I tell you I thought I was here for my kids, you know, they got the good fundamentals, being kind, trying to be honest. Those are the two things I ask for my kids, is being kind and being respectful. And you're gonna be very successful. So I had a big speech here, but I have to tell you, it's been 4 years, 5 years since I've been here, and it's 19 when I left. I know when we left, we left teachers and everybody else with about 18% increase in pay. You had a wonderful speech, by the way. You did lay that out. I went through about 70 of these, and you did a great job. And so I'll let you know, but that comes up to like 33% since I've been gone, that the teachers and everybody else we're going in the right direction and stuff. It might have a little dip or here, but it's going in the right direction. In our aesthetics, Ralph, you've done a great job. This is wonderful. Our young people, I want to commend you. That presentation that you just saw, and our young people come out, not in the 70 presentations I sat here with, seen any kid communicate with confidence. And my take home is, I support what Jack said, and please reach out to one of us. And before you make a decision and of what our president's been looking for, please consider the direction we've gone. And we've gone a long ways in 5 years. And we're barely breaking the clouds. So thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll move down into item 6, the discussion of the school resource officers on campus.
Did he want to speak in the public?
Well, he's got the SRO. Chief, do you want to speak on the subject, or do you want to speak in all the public?
If I am given the opportunity to speak after I hear what you say, I would rather do that.
I'll do either one, which is ever easier.
Okay, we'll go ahead and present, and then you can speak after we present this topic. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, item 6A is a discussion of the school resource officer.
No, we have quite a few more. I think he's just saying that this gentleman can speak during that agenda item rather than during the call, correct?
But we've got a bunch here at the modern classroom. We don't have any more callers.
So they all want to speak at the agenda item, correct?
Yeah, all the rest
Okay,
of them.
all the rest of them want to speak during the agenda item.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This item was put on the agenda to talk about the possibility of adding a school resource officer to each of the schools. And so I thought it would be a good thing to bring to the board meeting to start the discussion.
I think actually, Chuck, there is one more that's not related to an existing agenda item.
Okay. We'll get through with this presentation first and then you can speak. We've already started. So, Mr. Hunt, Mr. Hayes, you guys had some comments on the school resource. What are your concerns?
As we know, that there's been a number of different issues regarding school safety, not just in Casa Grande, but across the country. And as a new board member, one of the things that I felt would be an important conversation to have is what kind of resources we could have available within our community through our police department that could potentially assist in those efforts.
We've seen quite a number of things that have happened over the last several years in our schools. And though Casa Grande hasn't had any of those incidences that I'm aware of, it's something that I think we have to be prepared for. And I think that it would be well advised to take a look at bringing more resource officers on board. Some of the problems that I've seen happen in the last little bit in the fights that have broke out that have spread to more than just a few students, I think could get a lot worse if we're not very careful about what direction we take and how we control these issues before they get to big issues.
So the next question swirling around this is the funds in order to support this. Dr. Strong, can you give us an idea?
Mr. President, members of the board, there's a grant out there called the Arizona School Safety Grant, and most school districts that have school resource officers apply to the Arizona School Safety Grant. When you look at the history of the Arizona School Safety Grant, the monies that are applied for by school districts have always been not enough in the legislative appropriation. So many school districts apply for the SRO grant that not all school districts that apply get the funds out of that grant. Okay. The grant pays for three things primarily. It pays for counselors, extra counselors if needed, social workers, and school resource officers. Typically, the grant only grants one of those three things because of the volume of requests from school districts throughout the state of Arizona. We currently are in receipt of funds from the Arizona School Safety Grant. We have a social worker at Casa Grande Union High School paid through for that grant. And we have a social worker at Vista Grande High School paid for through that grant. It is unlikely, although I will not say it's a null event in my math world. It's not probability zero, but it's unlikely that with all the requests throughout the state that you're going to see the governing body of those grants grant us 2.0 FTE school site. Okay, so we've covered that. Now, Governor Hobbs in her initial State of the Union address did address the need to put more funding towards school counselors and social workers. So I don't know what future grants are going to come about. The one thing I do need to caveat all this with is if you cannot get the grant to support school resource officers, Then what happens is the district needs to figure out if that's the direction the district wants to go, how to carve it out of the M&O budget. With that being said, I've been members of other districts where we've gotten grants denied and we still desire to have an SRO on a campus, right? The general heuristic is from an employment point of view, just for the employment point of view, it's about $120,000 purchase once you include overtime for people working for the SRO working football games, SRO working athletic events. So that's not to say the police officer makes $120,000. That's with employee-related benefits, including health insurance, things along those lines. And typically an IGA is stood up with the local police department, and the local police department hires, pays, and the district reimburses the local police department for that employment. The secondary cost involved is what I call the first cost of standing up an SRO. The first cost of standing up an SRO, which generally the public organization doesn't have enough money for, is all your body equipment, your armor, your car and vehicle, which I'm not an expert. The chief can probably speak to a little better than I can, but those are typically in Queen Creek, we were talking $60,000 to $90,000 bills on the car. And the police departments just didn't have enough money to fund the car for the SRO, so that was a first cost experience. I would imagine that you're probably in the range of first cost SRO at each site being $250,000 for this district with an accompanying $250,000 employment cost, so $500,000. And then you start to relate that, everything's about decisions, right? Gave you the heuristic, compensation wise, a 1% raise in this district's $250,000 for all employees. And so it just becomes about balancing across what the needs of the district are, but there's your kind of business breakdown of the cost side of things.
Mr. Wright, Mr. Probert, I'd love to make a couple comments relevant to.
Go ahead.
Very good. Well, one, thank you for bringing it to our attention, and this is kind of one of those things as we continue to work together. It'd be my pleasure to try to have conversations with you and place it on the agenda. So I just want you to know I'm willing to do that. From my years of experience, pushing 20 years as an administrator here in Arizona, I have been blessed to work with police departments because they have the best interests of kids, students in mind as well. And Casa Grande is no different. Chief McCrory and his team have done a fantastic job. We initiated our relationship upon hire last year. And in that time period, we were able to develop some strategies for training our security, training staff, providing presentations, sharing resources, developing a relationship with our public relations, our PIO, to maintain safety of our school, and we continue to do so. So what I want to reassure you, while we don't have SROs on campus right now, we have a strong relationship. It's important that you know that your kids, your students are safe. So that's important because we won't have one tomorrow. You want to know that we're addressing. We called them and they're there. I've called Chief 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and he probably is done the same, maybe, depending upon things. So access, I'd ask you not to worry about. There's something else I'd ask you to know, and this is for our community. To have an SRO, one, we have to partner with our local police department to see if they have the capacity to give us a staff person, and we respect that. And then number two, we have to invite the community in. Personally and professionally, I absolutely trust the work of the Casa Grande Police Department. However, based upon other experiences, social media, news in and of itself, people have a different perspective. So we have to be cautious about making those decisions, not to put students, parents in harm's way. There'll be a different group of people that have different opinions, and we have to make sure we invite them in. And we must make sure that our police department is a part of that discussion. So I just want to assure you as board members that they are there when we need them and vice versa. We also have a standing meeting with our building administration. They are integral parts in developing our safety plans, our lockdown procedures. Nothing can happen as it relates to safety without us tapping them in. It's just natural. So I just want to make sure before you leave tonight, especially our new governing board members, that we do take matters of safety. And if and when we acquire, because based on what Dr. Strong said, he's 100% correct. If we acquire one, we would need to continue to work with our PD department, but also maybe other entities, and that's no small feat. So just want to make sure I share with you and thank you, Chief McCrory and the public. You all have been nothing short of amazing. So that's it.
Thank you for those comments, and I think the agenda item was simply to bring the topic to the forefront at a board meeting, to let our community parents and community members know that we are thinking about school security. We've had a few issues the past year about school security and some breakdowns, and it's a topic of conversation. We need to at least talk about it. We need to at least talk about any available resources, whatever grants may be available. We need to work with Dr. Strong to get maybe access. We need to work with the community, the police department, and Chief McCrory. Everybody's ideas are here, and it was time to bring this conversation to the table again to talk about how do we address security at both of our campuses. Chief, you want to come up and give us an address?
I do, thank you.
Just really quick, procedurally, as we have a number of calls to the public that we've moved to correspond to agenda items.
Yes.
Why don't we continue to enforce a 3-minute rule just so we get out of here before the sun rises?
Kind of an important topic to put down in a 3-minute rule, but I'll do my best. I looked at the agenda this week, and quite frankly, I was shocked that school resource officers were going to be discussed in a public forum, and nobody called us. Nobody. Fortunately, and I didn't reach out to anybody, I'm just going to show up. Dr. Battle hit on some things, and I'm going to repeat a couple of them. And I will say, and it's not a quid pro quo on the compliment thing, since she has been here, she has been the easiest superintendent since I've been here to work with. She's been at the forefront of student safety. She's been willing to hear ideas, even though sometimes she probably didn't agree with them. But some of the things before I get into this SRO that is on topic that we have been doing with the school to put some people's mind maybe a little bit more at ease. And first I will say, if anybody tells you that an SRO in your school is going to prevent something from happening or guarantee 100% safety, they're either a fool or a liar. Because that's not true. It takes a team, it takes effort, and it takes more than one individual in the school. Our B teams right now are currently looking at adopting a school for 6 months. We're also working on a multi-link. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that is the live cam from the inside of the school that comes on our apps and our police cars so that we can see real-time information. Like Dr. Battle said, we do have monthly conference calls with the high school principals and security. Dr. Battle and I have our own phone conversations to share information on some things that may be coming up or things that she thinks that I need to be aware of and vice versa. Very good communication. We are video mapping every school so we can upload that on our officers' computers so we have real-time or current looks of the inside of a building if we have to respond. We have held civilian response to active shooter drills in all the schools. We're fixing to turn around and renew that again to start those again. We have done safety site assessments. Our threat liaison officers did site assessments to all the high schools. And our officers are more than willing to work because a lot of my officers have students in these high schools. So we are vested. I don't, but a lot of them do. But to talk about grants are wonderful, but grants are limited. And at the time that a grant runs out, that comes out of me, my budget. To give you a little bit of an idea right now with the status of our police department, I'm lucky. I got a city manager and a mayor that support public safety. We have 80 officers sworn. I'm allowed to have 90. I have 3 retiring in the fall, in the spring. So I need to hire 13 officers as soon as I possibly can, just to do regular calls for service. And to put one in a school system, and your figures were frighteningly accurate. My hat's off to you on that. It was, I was expecting something way off, but you were right on the money on that. But to give you an idea, and really actually to break it down quickly, and you're right, the first year cost of an SRO is unbelievable. The vehicles, the upfit, the radios, the dash cameras, that itself is $95,000 for one vehicle. The wages and the benefit, $120,000. The academy could be up to $15,000. Then you got to factor in vests, boots, belts, body camera, portable radios, taser, handgun, rifle. And that totals very close, $246,000. And these are today's numbers. These are numbers that my management analyst gave me yesterday. So I know they're accurate because these are the numbers that we use when we're coming into budget time. So I don't want to give the impression that our police department doesn't want to do what we can for school safety. I think it starts with a relationship building like we have, and the effort of my men and women to try to work closer with the school district and be seen more in the school district. SRO sounds good. It really does. It's not a fix-all. It's not, and then I would ask, we have what, 20, and I know you're more interested in the two senior high schools, which I understand that. We have 20-some schools in the city. Where do you pick? How do you pick? And if you don't have an SRO in each high school, by the time the SRO from Union gets to Vista, he's gonna be met by 3 of my cars that are already there. It's a response. Having somebody in the high school, seeing an officer, they may not fight down by the office, but they may fight in the cafeteria. If they're gonna fight, they're gonna fight. And I will say, from my perspective, in these schools, we do have some small things that happen, but we're dealing with kids. Some of them are more serious than we'd like, but they're handled. And I think that they've been handled well by both the school, the principals, and our officers. And I don't know, again, I'm a little bit flabbergasted that this even comes up in a public forum to talk about SROs, because I feel like it puts me in a bad spot. And I feel like it puts my officers in a bad spot. And I feel like it puts my boss and my mayor in a bad spot. Because nobody came and asked me, give me some figures, give me your thought on this. Had I not shown up tonight, I would have read, I wouldn't have, because I don't get on it. Social media, somebody would have called me, somebody said something on social media that I'm against SROs. Or, something along those lines. And all I would ask as we go down this road, and it seems like you're gonna go down this road, that you come to us and get factual information. You come to us and know where we are right now as a department. I could pull somebody and put them in both high schools. Then I'd have to make a call to Mission Royale and tell some 78-year-old lady that she's not gonna see a police officer for 2 weeks because they're over Union. We do our scheduling, we do our staffing to benefit the entire city. And that doesn't mean that we think less of high school children or kids than we do the people down in Mission Royale. But it's a process. It's again, grants do not necessarily, they cover for a while. I got, Deputy Chief Ramirez got us a cops grant for 10 officers, $1.2 million. The mayor and my boss had to come up with another $2.3 million to hire those officers. They're a Band-Aid. Somebody eventually has to pay for it. And if we're not in that position to pay for it, and the schools obviously aren't in that position to pay for it, then I think we're going down a road that needs a lot more discussion before it comes out in the public.
But you have to start the discussion to get to get facts and data and to get the public involved. And that's the reason we started this conversation.
I'm not gonna argue with you, but the facts involved are with
appreciate
us.
you being here. Somebody should have called you before when the agenda come out, and I apologize for that. But the purpose of this discussion item was to generate discussion and to generate ideas. And so we've accomplished that. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
Mayor McFarland, you got it down here for SRO and for PACE. Which one do you want to speak at?
I can speak at both.
So you need to take the lecture and speak about the SRO.
I'll be brief. Thank you, Mr. President, fellow board members, Craig McFarland, Mayor of the City of Casa Grande. I'm just here really to show support. I want to be here to support the schools. The city council is definitely in support of our education systems. And we want you all to know that we are here to support. Our police are here to support. You have your protocols in terms of your safety at your schools. I will tell you and offer up that we do have a new push alert system that the city is going to be offering or putting out to the public that would actually push out alerts like your statewide alerts. So if there was a need for the schools to contact us directly, we'd help get that information out. So there's some new resources that are coming that I think will help in terms of the communication process for our citizens and for our students as well. They can opt in and then we'll push it out either in a text or a call or even call your home if that's the way you prefer it, or send you an email. So it's like 4 different options on how you can get the information. So I just wanted to say I do support. I think resource officers are important, but to the chief's point, I think we can cover it. We need to work together. We need to work with the police department. That's what we're here for. And I just wanted to show that the city is here to support our students and our teachers and our school district. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have no other calls in the public on the SRO. Have any further discussion on the subject? Okay.
No, that's fine.
All right. So we'll leave it at that and we'll look into getting more information as we go along and bring this back when we're ready. Okay. We'll move on to the modern classroom discussion. We started modern classroom last year as a pilot with the freshman class. It's very exciting. It's a different way, a different philosophy of instructing to the students. After almost a year, we'd like to know how that program is doing and how effective it is. And so we'd like to direct the administration to create a survey of some kind, a detailed survey that will poll the parents and the teachers to bring information back to us to let us know the effectiveness of this program, to see if it's something that we want to continue next year with our next class. So if you could do that for us. Okay, thank you. I think that's all we have.
Are there calls to the public?
Yeah, we've got several. So we've got some calls to the public for the modern classroom. And the first one is Amy Hampson.
Do my best to keep it under 3 minutes. Greetings, friends, families, and partners of education. My name is Miss Amy Harrison. This is my first year with this district, and my first year utilizing the Modern Classroom Project as a new and innovative teaching strategy. New and innovative. That's what education has needed since even before the pandemic. I was introduced to the Modern Classroom Project, or MCP, in a training session in June of 2022. Change can be scary and change can be intimidating, but our district needed something different. Our district is underperforming in every core subject compared to other students in this state. This tells me that our district is in need of a change. The MCP is a new teaching strategy that has been implemented throughout all K through 12 grade levels and beyond throughout America. The idea is to teach in a blended learning environment where students learn at their own pace to achieve mastery of a subject. In reflection of first semester, we decided that we were not teaching in a blended classroom, but rather relied heavily on the online portion. We have set a collective goal to blend our teaching into a more in-person with online environment, a true blended classroom. The MCP is especially helpful to students who are on an IEP or a 504 plan, as it fits many of the agreed upon modifications and qualifications, such as self-paced, additional time, multiple attempts, etc. Moreover, the MCP allows for the teacher to have more direct and targeted conversations one-on-one with students who may be struggling or falling behind. My experience with the MCP has allowed me to form deeper connections with students because I'm given the time in the classroom to connect with them on both the academic and the social emotional learning level. Sometimes all students need are a snack and a nap. When they learn on a self-paced schedule, they have the freedom to do those things in the classroom. Furthermore, the demographic of our district does not promise every student to have access to the internet at home or a helpful parent to answer questions. The MCP has essentially eliminated the need for homework. If students accomplish their work in the classroom, this lessens the stress on the teacher of having to grade hundreds of assignments, and it lessens the stress of the student having to accomplish the assignments at home or on their own time. With the focus on social emotional well-being of an adolescent, the MCP allows for the teacher to meet those needs in a way the traditional classroom does not. But it isn't just the social emotional need of the student that is being met. Academic improvement is being met. With multiple attempts to turn in assignments, tests, and quizzes, we are seeing an increase in confidence with student work. The beginning of December, I had 62 of my 127 students failing because they were not adhering to the soft deadline of the self-paced schedule. 2 weeks later, I had only 25 of my students failing. My next goal, of course, is to get this number even lower, but we can see the trend of these students and their ability to get it done. Now I have 2 more paragraphs, may I? They're short.
3 minutes.
Okay. Well, I do believe that we need more time with the Modern Classroom Project before we make any rash decisions based on emotion. We need to look at the facts of how this helps students.
Clarice, McCarry, is that right?
Macrae.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Clarice Macrae, one of the international teachers of the district. I started working here in year 2014, and I still remember school year 2016-2017. Our school district transitioned from paper and pencil to activities to laptops. It was quite an adjustment for teachers, students, and even parents. Students needed to learn how to navigate Microsoft Office, how to download, save, and submit assignments. Teachers needed to submit digital version of assignments and lessons that they have perfected through years of using them. Transitioning to Modern Classroom Project reminds me of those years. It is an adjustment. Modern Classroom Project is a teaching model for grades K to 12. It comprises blended instruction, self-paced, and mastery-based learning, as explained by Ms. Harrison. Now, as expected, MCP in my classroom has polarizing effects to the students, but looking at the model, it is perfect for students with IEP, 504, and even advanced learners. The model gives them time to work on their own pace as they follow soft deadlines. It gives them the liberty to move to a slower or faster pace within the prescribed time frame without affecting their classmates' learning process. The model has given me a chance to have a conversation, even a short one, to all students every day, and know their academic and social emotional needs without having the entire class wait for a traditional teacher to provide instruction and address it to everyone. I have my videos to do that as I focus on students that need 100% of me. Moreover, I think the best feature of MCP model is the mastery-based grading, acquiring mastery of the lesson, unit, or standards before moving forward. In mastery-based grading, students are given opportunities to turn in assignments and take mastery checks multiple times until they have shown proficiency. Mastery-based grading gives them the confidence to pass the test at the end of the unit. I know from different points of view, they might raise their eyebrows when I say I give my students multiple chances to turn in assignments and take tests. But isn't that what school is all about? Setting students up for success. With this grading system, a student shows mastery and understanding of the content, gives them self-assurance of passing themselves this semester. Regarding students' performance, in the past, each of my class would have 5 to 9 students that would fail the class. This past semester, I only have 9 failing students across my 5 classes. That is 9 out of 136. Of course, there may be some factors affecting this, like grading policy, IEC, and all, but modern classroom is not the perfect model. But I would say it could mislead the learning process if the teacher relies heavily on the online version or the online part. But what I would like to say is that let's collect more data to prove the effectivity of modern classroom. That's it.
Stacey Brady.
Hello, I'm Stacey Brady and I teach biology at Casa Grande Union High School and I have sophomores. And I just wanted to give you a glimpse into what my day looked like today teaching with the modern classroom model. So we opened up today with a little bit of bell work to get the kids going while I got attendance done and dealt with some administrative duties that I had to get done within the classroom, followed by me reviewing 2 vocabulary words to my entire class because yesterday, the day before, I realized they didn't quite get these 2 words. So we did a whole group activity, little tiny thing that we took 5 minutes to do to talk about these 2 words. After we talked about those 2 words, I was able then to talk to the students to get, okay, everybody, it's time to start your individual assignments. I'm going to pull these 20 kids over here and we are going to work on something else. So I pulled these 20 kids to this other side of the room, and I was able to work with them on some notes that I noticed the day before they were struggling with. So we worked on those notes over here. I do have an IEC that I work with. She monitored my other students, reminded them to get back on task, dealt with anything that was going on with those students who were working while I was working with this group. They were still working on their assignment. They could access the lecture notes, and so they could still keep up on their work. Then once I finished my 20 minutes or so with these guys, I was then able to get up and walk around the room and go and chat with individual students. One young man told me today about his dreams of becoming a chiropractor. I don't know, could I have found that out in a traditional classroom? Maybe after a while, but as we talked about his assignment and how it applies to his life as a chiropractor, he was able to see it. And we talked about his fear of science and how I don't know if I can handle all this science and talk through some of that. Another young man that I talked to today, he's going to be gone on Friday. So he is working as quickly as he can to get through the assignments because he knows what the week looks like. He knows what assignments he has to get done. He's trying to finish them all up by Thursday, so he doesn't have to worry about anything over this weekend that he's going to be gone. So because of modern classroom, he doesn't have to wait till he comes back to make up this work. He's doing it now. He's like, Miss, I need to take my mastery check, which is their quiz, a day early before you're ready to give it to everybody else. Can I do that? Because I said, absolutely, yes, of course you can. But what I usually do with their mastery checks is this is the first opportunity that everybody can take it. And then over the next 3 days, everybody has their opportunity to take it or retake it. And so he wanted to know, can I take it a day before everybody else because I know I'm going to be gone? I said, absolutely. Things like that can't happen in a normal, traditional setting in a classroom. It can happen in a modern classroom though. So, and then, as I paced around the room, met with different students, talked about their assignments, then the last little bit of class, my philosophy with it is you open together, you close together. We come together for an exit question, an exit ticket, a review. Let's, those 2 words that we talked about at the very beginning of class, let's talk about them now. How did you use those words today? So that is what modern classroom looks like. And I would invite any of you to come into my classroom any day and come and check it out. If you want to know what modern classroom looks like, come on in. I invite you to come on in.
Real quick. I want to say I appreciate that. And so far, everybody that has presented that this sort of thing is a new member that I'm looking for. Help me understand. Thank you.
The next one up is Angel Reese. Am I saying that right?
Reese.
Okay.
All right. Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say good evening, and I'd like to thank the governing board members and everyone here for giving me the chance to speak up as a student. I am a Vista student, and I am currently a freshman. I'm here to talk about the, sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Modern classroom. MPC.
MTC, thank you. And what I think about it as a student. Now, what I like about MCP, thank you, is that you really can go in your own pace. As I mentioned earlier, you choose how far you want to get to as a student. And to have that, I really enjoy that. Now, they also mentioned how teachers can also connect more with students. I really also like that part because communication really is the key to success. It's what I believe. And I really enjoy that. And I also like to thank Ms. McCurry. She's my English teacher, and having this new system really allowed me to go far academically. And I'd say that's about it.
I just wanted to say really quickly that it is really amazing to see a student with the courage to come unprompted, speak to the board, and I am really proud of you coming and speaking your piece tonight.
We have one candidate that signed in. Not sure where it was supposed to go. Maybe it was in the journal call, but we missed it. Robert Castro.
Thank you, President Wright, and board members, and Dr. Battle. I do want to congratulate the new members of the board. I do want to talk about a couple of different items, however, and I will be brief, and I promise I'll make it under 3 minutes. Okay? My main issue is from a private citizen in this community who's been in this community for over 30 years, and President Wright, our children grew up together, and Member Hayes, I was glad to work with you over the last school year over some issues with the elementary school board and getting some things that changed and addressed that had to happen. However, right now, the hostile environment concerning Superintendent Dr. Battle is troubling me. And I've seen, as being in this community for over 30 years, seen things happen in the high school district where, keep changing superintendents over and over without giving time and things to progress. And this, again, is just starting out, new members coming in here, and to, again, as others have spoken well, said, to be taking on something, trying to remove a superintendent right away, instead of digesting the things that, especially the new members, you need to be digesting. I've served on the school board before. I know what it's like. And, I'm just saying it's troubling when I see things in the newspaper, when I'm hearing rumors in the community, such as been brought up here, of board members trying to get 3 together so they can oust the superintendent. That is a troubling thing in many different aspects. Well, we have a city that's trying to bring in new industry, and that these things are troublesome. And I'm just asking, what is all this about? And the 2 big issues that I've been seeing, whether it's on social media or in the newspaper, dealing with whether it's the NJRTC program or pressure of having teachers graduate students that didn't deserve it. And how did these things begin? What was the source? What was the beginning of all these? The NJRTC thing, I don't believe it. The Dr. Battle was the first one to step up and say, hey, why are we spending this much money on this? Why is this? I think that came from somewhere else. But how did it get turned into Dr. Battle's trying to cancel this program? And as well as trying to force teachers to pass students that didn't deserve it. How all this process came about, this is not anything that's not a traceable thing. The board knew everything and every process, every step along the way on this, so I don't see why all this is going on. I met with one of the parents in the community who very proudly told me she was one of the instigators that started this whole, was one of the ones that started this whole thing to try to remove Dr. Battle. And I asked her one simple question. Have you asked to try to sit down with Dr. Battle? And she said, no, I just won't, I'll never do that. And I'm just saying, please, before you step forward and do this and try to do this, make sure you check all the boxes, what you really need to be doing, and make sure it's not hurting our community in a lot of different ways, as well as this school district. Thank you.
Dr. Eden, did you want to speak on the modern classroom, or did you say blended personalized learning? What?
Yes, that is the same thing.
Okay.
Good evening, President Wright, members of the governing board, Dr. Battle. I appreciate this opportunity to clear up a few misconceptions and some transition, and to share some transition in our work as we work to implement blended personalized learning in our district. And this, by words, I hope will inform the discussion about the Modern Classroom Project. So the Modern Classrooms Project has provided us with a model and training so that we could begin to implement blended personalized learning in our classrooms. Blended personalized learning is a key component of our district strategic plan, which you have in front of you, which was originally developed in 2010-11 and modified in 2019-20 under the former superintendent's leadership. Dr. Battle and our leadership team have been working to implement key goals in this strategic plan. You'll see specifically bullet 6, which is to develop personalized student learning that encourages creative and critical thinking strategies. And also the last bullet, which is to expand and ensure the use of relevant technology to enhance the educational process and student learning. Our district focus poster on the other side outlines the importance of integrated technology in the district's vision for personalized learning. So the Modern Classrooms Project is actually a professional development vendor that we have worked with, and many of our teachers that spoke with you today have had the benefit of participating in that professional development. And it has supported the work in the strategic plan for personalized learning and integrated technology. Modern Classrooms Project is not a prescriptive program that dictates curriculum or instructional strategies. Your teachers that you heard from today and teacher teams participated in training, collaborated with support from their subject matter experts and department leads to plan instruction using blended learning, self-paced structures, and mastery learning. And I was so thrilled to hear the comments from the teachers today about their own reflection that they're at a place where they've been focusing too much or focusing primarily on the technology side, and they are shifting to really make sure that that in-person piece is strong as well. This is a natural part of the evolution and implementation of this model, and it's so exciting to hear. In our office, we are working with teachers and leaders to reflect on what's working and what isn't. And one thing I think we could have done better is messaging and terminology. So we are implementing blended, self-paced, personalized learning in our classrooms. And yes, the training is Modern Classrooms Project, and you can see that many people use that terminology. But we need to be clear that what we are implementing is what is in our strategic plan. And so we're moving forward, and we'll use we're going to work to shift to call them the personalized learning courses to avoid that future confusion. I will keep myself short, but I just want to be clear that we're working together, implementing feedback. We have plans to gather additional feedback in advance of your request. We conducted focus groups with the teachers in December. All of the teachers were present and they gave us really good information, very similar to what you just heard from this group. And we're working with the teachers to support them in making the modifications and adjustments as needed. So I am done with my 3 minutes, but I hope that that was helpful context.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I just want to thank Dr. Eden for her clarification and her transparency on that it's a learning process for everybody. I do remember when you guys made the presentation initially, months and months ago on it, the concept. It was very apparent and truthful that there was going to be some front-loaded work. And it looks like that has happened, but that they're working through the kinks, and now we're getting to a point where it's coming together. So I think that's really great. Thank you.
I would just reinforce that quickly. It just, as an educator, we know how important reflection and reevaluation are. It's wonderful to see that in real time being discussed with us.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Dancy, you had 3 topics. Do you want to talk about blended learning?
I'll talk about, of course I will. Did Angel leave?
Yes.
Well, board president, Dr. Battle. One of the things that I would like to talk about is we always talk about relationships and building relationships. One of the things that this blended learning does is allows our teachers to be able to build those relationships. If any of you have ever been on my campus, or if any of you have ever talked to me, or if you've ever had the opportunity to meet my admin team, you know they will preach that I build relationships. I look for and build meaningful relationships with students. This process and the blending learning and modern classroom project allows our teachers to be able to become more personable with our students. Ms. Brady alluded to getting to know a student better as far as what he wants to do as far as being a chiropractor. As she said, that conversation may not have happened. You can walk to a modern classroom, blended learning classroom, and see that our teachers are floating around the rooms. They are having these meaningful conversations. They are getting to learn more about them. If you were asking my admin team, one of the things that they would tell you is if we're having a discipline problem with a student and it's a teacher problem, I literally say, what does the teacher know personally about this student to be able to help? That lends itself to be able to do that. Angel left, keeping my comments short on that. Angel left, but he will be receiving one of our Spartan Pride cards, and thank you.
We have one more, Melody Holloway. Please come up.
In the interest of getting people out of here before it is midnight, I have proposed that perhaps we power through the rest of these public comments so as to allow people who need to get home and sleep for their real jobs.
Well, hello, my name is Melody Holloway. I am a school counselor at the Grande Innovation Academy here in Casa Grande. I have been here since 2015, and it is a pleasure to be before you today. South Carolina State Senator and educational opportunity advocate Tim Scott gave this call, and I echo his sentiments. As we debate this education opportunity, we must ensure our focus is in the right place. Education policy is not about protecting the system. It should not be about empowering governing bodies, and it cannot be about an endless, fruitless push for some sort of one-size-fits-all type of system. This conversation must be about kids and their unlimited potential. Everything that I've heard tonight has been the focus, has been about the kids. And that's really what we're here for. They are the future, and we want to make sure that we have paved the way for them so that they can be successful. For over a decade, I have worked with children and adolescents. Since 2015, I've had the privilege of educating, coaching, counseling, and supporting the diverse youth of the Casa Grande community. Prior to working with primary and secondary education, I worked in higher education. I have made it a constant source of study to understand and develop future generations. It is impossible and negligent to ignore the vast changes in the makeup of our student populations. It is also impossible to ignore the very real challenges of 21st century students. The APA has found that in the 21st century, the average child today experiences the same level of anxiety as a psychiatric patient did in the 1950s. In my office, and if those walls could talk, it would simply break your heart. As I've heard many times, our kids do not need a sage on the stage, they need a guide on the side. They have more information than any other generation before, and we must adjust our roles as educators and leaders to engage them in their development and maturation as they seek to use that information in personally and corporately productive and effective ways. The research of Dr. Tim Elmore, specifically on Generation Z, states that they must be allowed to prove themselves. It's an acronym for problem. Students engage when their work stems from real-world problems. Relationships. Students engage when connecting and sparring with others in the learning process. Ownership. Students engage when they determine the course that they should take to reach the goal. Visuals. Students engage as their imagination is sparked by images, metaphors, and stories, as well as experience. Students engage when learning involves experiences and project-based learning. From the presentation and information that I have been apprised of the PACE endeavor, as well as the modern classroom, this is exactly what it is. There's always the fear of change, and as I've heard my father say many times, new levels bring new devils. With advancement comes adversity. PACE may not be the answer for all, but if it can provide relief and opportunity for a great many, why not? We must adjust our actions to truly meet the needs of the youth in our community. We adapt, not adopt. We adapt, we make something suitable for a new use or purpose. We modify, we alter. We don't necessarily always adopt, which means to take up, follow, or to use. We want to adapt to where our kids are and what they need. That doesn't mean that we have to adopt every new philosophy that's out there. It is very difficult to put a large puzzle together without the box top. Why? Because the box offers the big picture. You all play a big role in the future of our community, and I believe that PACE, as well as the modern classroom, can be the puzzle piece needed to create a picture of thriving in Casa Grande. Thank you.
Mr. Andy, I know you got something to say about.
Of course. You know, you see me. Good evening. I'm back. Okay, I come bearing information. I wanted to be sure to close up some of the questions or concerns that I'm hearing. And so I want to share.
If you're gonna address those concerns that were handed out tonight, I would rather we have a complete list given back to us after you guys put it all together.
You will have access to this when I give this to you, and you have takeaways. There's a QR code at the top. When you go to that site, it's gonna have all of this information and more.
And if I might, she doesn't know about the sheet review.
Okay, that's what I thought that was.
She's just using her 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Nope. Okay, some shared questions and answers. First one is clarifying, is PACE a program or a standalone school? It is a standalone school. We could not apply for the planning grant if it was not a standalone school. This information was shared from me in the June board meeting and again in the December board meeting. Next question, will PACE have internships? Absolutely, yes. Internships are built into the learning structure for each student. As we have communicated in previous presentations and published material, students have an opportunity at each learning level to participate in work-based learning, with the final years focused on interning, apprenticeships, and application of learned skills and habits of work. What curriculum will be used? We will use the same curriculum standards and core instruction that is required by the state, the Arizona Board of Regents, and our district board. Career exploration curriculum is in the process of being aligned and is supplied by the Center for the Future of Arizona for free and is aligned to the state of Arizona ECAP requirements. Will PACE serve food and supply transportation? Yes. We are going to serve the same food using the same food service company as the other two traditional campuses. We have a full kitchen and serving area as shared in the virtual tour labeled food serving area. Transportation logistics were included in the exterior building design and are decided as we get registration information to develop the final plan. Is the purpose of PACE to only support SEL, social emotional learning? No. The purpose of PACE came out of the data on student learning experiences established in new community businesses, sharing their experiences and needs, and a need for the student and family to have voice and choice within our district. PACE's mission is to collaborate with the community to personalize student learning using learning pathways, projects, non-conventional a non-conventional comprehensive approach to skills development, and much more. We will support students and staff's emotional needs as the other schools are required to do. And final question, does PACE have any open seats? We are currently filled and we do have a wait list. We have more people who have applied than seats available. Last thing I want to leave you with are just some statements from some of the family as to why they chose PACE. Some of the things that the kids and parents said: I want a different learning environment. I want smaller class sizes. I'm looking for a challenge. I'm looking for a different type of school. I need a different approach to learning. Parents, one of the biggest things from parents, just as I just look at this, is thinking about them wanting to have their student, their child, feel like they have say and feel like the school trusts them to make the best decisions for themselves. We're gonna help guide them into those decisions, but they do want them to have more opportunity and more control and more choice in what they do. Not every situation is for every student. Some students have a very hard time going to big, huge traditional campuses and would thrive in a smaller environment. And this is an opportunity for them. We don't have any of those choices within our district. We don't have that at all. And this is a chance for us to keep those students, to encourage new students, and to build on their excitement, because they are excited. The numbers of enrollment and application tell me. They're very excited, and I would hate for us to lose an opportunity to take that excitement and help them to have a positive and successful post-secondary experience.
Julie Morris. I said that right?
Yeah.
Thank you, as you've been waiting all night.
Hi there, I'm Julie. Thank you guys for giving me a chance to speak. I'm not a speaker, I'm just a parent of a child who is neurodiverse. And there's not a whole lot of opportunity, like she was saying, in Casa Grande for that smaller atmosphere. I would really have concern putting my son at Vista or Casa Grande Union, just size-wise. It's overwhelming for kids who struggle socially and whatnot. And I welcome and appreciate the chance to not have to think about leaving Casa Grande to put my son in high school, because it's not here, you know? So I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you. So down to 6C, the discussion of the grading process and practice.
I had something on PACE also.
You want to say something on that?
Yeah, that was.
You only got 30 seconds left.
Hey, anybody ask, I'm very short to the point. I don't really like a lot of words. I'm not up here because I am married to a headmaster. And I say that with all honesty. I will tell you, and if you ever sit in a meeting with my admin team, if you ask Sean Casey, if you ask Dr. Strong, I don't stomp for many schools outside of Vista. That's just not who I am. I'm a very proud Vista employee. I bleed black and gold, so I don't go, hey, you need PACE. Oh, hey, well, no, unions are better. That's not who I am. I want every student to come to Vista. I will honestly tell you, the option of PACE is something that is needed in Casa Grande. It is not something that we don't need. It is not something that we need to put on the wayside. It is not something that we can't, that we shouldn't have. There are students who do not fit the traditional school mold. We talk about it all the time. You saw one of them in here this evening. And we know this. As educators, we look and see who's supposed to be where and what's the best fit. I know right now, I can probably name 10 kids at Vista's campus that should be at a school like PACE. I try to send them, but they're only taking freshmen. But PACE is absolutely needed as another option for the Casa Grande Union High School District. I've been in education for 20-some odd years, started working in Ypsilanti, Michigan, in group homes, in Detroit, in youth development workers. There were students that I wouldn't have taken to won't say Cass Tech, because you probably wouldn't know that I wouldn't take to a Finney. If you know anything about the Detroit school system, Detroit Finney is one of the worst schools, toughest, worst schools in the city, and that's where I worked out of. I wouldn't take my students there because they wouldn't have fit in and they needed a smaller environment. We need smaller environments for these students, and PACE is where it's at. I happen to be able to sit on that committee, and again, if anybody knows me, not the most patient individual with committees. I'm happy that I was able to sit on that and be able to help bring PACE to Castle Union High School.
Thank you, man. Okay, now we're moving.
Mayor McFarland would like his 30 seconds.
You want to speak?
You want to power through all of the
You only
comments?
have 15 seconds.
If you want to power through all the comments, I had a comment on PACE. So if you want to cover it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't even use up my whole time the first time. First of all, I'm here to support it. I'm here to support Dr. Battle. She's worked very hard at this, and I have worked with her on this program, been part of the committee. We also have a lot of our industries as part of the committee. We've got Kohler that's involved, we have Lucid involved, we have Nicola involved. So this is the first program that any of our schools have ever put together that actually has what I would call citywide support from our industry. And this is what's needed for our education and workforce development. This program is so important. I've been working for 6 years to try and get some sort of an education and workforce development program put forward in the city.
You and I started that.
Yes, we did. We did, and I think this is a home run, Chuck. I think this is an opportunity for us to actually hit something out of the ballpark. So it's extremely important. I would encourage you to really give it a chance, because I know it has support. It has support from as the president or the chairman of the statewide Mayor's Education Roundtable, which I started in January. Dr. Battle is part of that group. She comes and attends. Also, our other superintendent for elementary school attends. And I would encourage any of you, and I've invited a couple of you to attend those meetings. So it's a statewide effort. There's a lot of opportunity here. We have some money from ASU also to help support it. So I think that you need to give it a chance. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to 6C, the grading process and the policy. The questions that some board members had was what the policy and the process actually is. We want the information. We want basically what is the policy, who has the authority to change the grading policy. And you gentlemen have something to say about it?
There's also been some concern brought to me by district employees that it's also created a scenario where there are students who aren't doing any work and are getting, because of it, are still passing because of the setup. So that's where I'd like some more clarification as to what's this all about, and if that is happening, how is it happening?
If I might.
So Dr. Battle, could you give us a little bit of light on that, please?
I'd be glad to. As you know, we shared in board communications as well as other settings what our grading practices. We want to be careful again of language. There is the policy that I'll read for you as soon as Mary pulls it up. And then there are grading practices and strategies that support those policies. I will guarantee you we're not violating Casa Grande Union High School District policies. So the policy reads, just so everyone's on the understanding, a district developed grading system will be utilized. Teachers will keep a careful record of grades assigned to students. Written reports to parents concerning student achievement will be made every 9 weeks by the teacher, and additional written reports will be made when necessary. Teachers will confer with parents when necessary concerning academic progress of the supportive students. Teachers will report to parents on students' conduct, scholarship, attendance, or excessive tardiness. And then it goes on about special education, grades reporting achievement of special education. Students not taking regular education classes shall be given on the basis of commensurate with students' abilities and based upon individual progress rather than competition with classmates. The permanent record cards for such students shall indicate enrollment of education. Parents of special education students shall be counseled regarding the significance of the grading system in order to avoid misinterpretation of achievement grades. This is important that I share that with you because as board members, you may revise policy. So strategies and how our teachers teach is really up to teachers in the classroom. So I just want to caution us and I need direction of what you're asking of us. Now, with that said, given the committee work that has occurred quite efficiently and effectively, I might add, that they being our educators in the classroom, in order to maintain a level of continuity from one class to the other or even one department to the other, there must be an agreement of how Casa Grande Union High School District is going to grade, as you've heard, as well as with blended learning, self-paced instruction, and mastery learning. There are some things that are still being tweaked on the best interests of students, and for us to develop an understanding that grades mean what level of learning and to what degree of learning have students mastered concepts. Let's not forget the state assessment, which is ACT, helps our students to be prepared for the next level, secondary learning. In order to understand that, as the practitioners of the classroom, teachers are analyzing student data to determine if learning is happening. So as the superintendent, it's my charge to work with our teachers who are the practitioners in the classroom. How do you know a kid is learning? A grade is not a reward. It's not a reward today. There's too much weight upon what that grade means to the life of a child. So therefore, the Grading Practices Committee has convened and will continue to convene to make sure that we know what a grade means. So I would need to have clear understanding of what direction you're asking me to tell the teachers. Let me just be frank. Are we telling the teachers that the board is going to tell them how to grade? Please help me with that.
This is from Mr. Hawes and regarding, so if you want to start right here regarding.
So we sought out counsel. It's important to know this too, that as the agenda items are on, I apologize that you're here so late. I really am. You all have things to do and this matters to you. But I would love to be able to help the governing board with that.
Okay.
That would be having advance notice so that I can give you some information and not to stop the agenda item, but and put it on the agenda. And then you can decide to what extent you'd like to have more information. So I apologize to everyone on behalf of all of us, but it's important that I say that because I do feel really bad. Some of you are traveling quite a distance to get here, but this is from what legal counsel has shared with us. He stated that the board is the policy-making body. Modern classroom and the grading process are not policies. These are processes.
And that's where we got them listed where they are.
They are processes, but they're not policies.
I know that's why we've got them
Okay.
listed in information.
And then it says the implementation of the policies and the processes that drive them has been tasked to the district administration per policy. That's what policy says. Therefore, you can discuss the processes, but there is not action attached. I can include the information, what he says regarding other items. So let me just assure you, as the superintendent, it's my pleasure to provide updates and information as you might need it. I just want to be sure that we are not violating policy, ARS statute, or the rights of teachers as relates to their craft. and their professional responsibility to student achievement.
I think the reason that these three items are on the discussion and information category is because these items of concern are not just from our board members, but also from members of the public. And so it's a good idea that we discuss this in public and get it out and let the public know that we're thinking about it, and we'll have the discussion go where it needs to go. So thank you for your comments.
I just want to note one thing while we're on this agenda item as well, and that's that coming up with a grading policy is tricky. I've taught at several schools, and I've been a part of committees before trying to come up with grading policies, and it's not easy. And there's often a lot of disagreement. One thing that I appreciate about the approach the district has taken so far is that the committee is made up, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at the members of the committee, and all are teachers except Dr. Eben, correct? And
This is correct. Oh, and the two principals.
and then the two principals as well.
And and who?
Mr. Walton?
Mr. Welker, assistant principal.
Oh, okay, excuse
Dr.
me.
Bauer is not on the committee.
But it is a majority of teachers on the committee, and it's good to see that.
Yes.
Any other discussion, Jim? Yes.
I would just like to add from the public comment, from some of the teachers that got up in support of how it's working for them. I do appreciate that, so.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to matters.
So, Mr. Wright, I guess I need some direction. What am I to do? What are we doing right now?
We were just having a discussion.
So just discussion, understood. I just
Just
want,
discussion.
yeah, thank you.
That's why it's located where it is. We just want to discuss.
Very good, thank you.
7A, terms and conditions of acceptance of money, Dr. Strong.
Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Ralph Belloc was honored tonight, and he's the type of guy that's gonna tell you his team helped him do it all. And so I need to congratulate our operations team. They were awarded $3.893 million from the Building Renewal Grant Fund from the general fund in the state of Arizona. And that helps relieve our local taxpayers from having to carry the burden in a bond. It also helps relieve our capital budget and M&O budgets from having to use capital dollars to replace the roof at Union. The roof at Union is 29 years old and it's failing, and it's time to get it replaced. And we're happy that it was approved through the Building Renewal Grant process. And we're hoping to get this project complete, bidded out and complete by July of 23 before the next monsoons roll through.
All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve the terms and conditions for acceptance of monies from the Building Renewal Grant Fund from the Department of School Facilities as presented.
I will happily second.
Been moved and seconded by Mr. Hayes and Mr. Kirby.
That's correct.
I just want to say, all you got is a plaque for getting all this.
I would certainly love if we were a private industry, if we could give 10% commission to our operations.
Don't give him ideas.
Mary, you want to call for the question?
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
Item B, Donna Tess, you want to speak on this?
Sure. If I start talking from back here, does my 3 minutes start? No.
Yes.
Well, it won't take me 3 minutes, I assure you. Very quickly. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Compensation and working conditions. They're the primary tools we have to attract and retain employees of the highest caliber at all levels. Contracts bind an employee to those elements, compensation and working conditions. Interest-based negotiations is the process designated by this governing board to address compensation and working conditions. The IBN process, which governs the 2023-2024 contracts, has not yet begun. The contract templates being presented tonight will bind legally employees to this district without benefit of knowing
either their compensation or their working conditions. As CGEA president, representing more than half of the teachers in this district, I am asking that all contracts with certified employees, including teachers, JROTC teachers, librarians, counselors, and anybody else that may be paid on the teacher salary schedule that I don't know about, be tabled until such time as the IBN process is completed, so that every employee can sign that contract knowing what they're agreeing to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Under 3 minutes.
Dr. Strong.
Mr. President, members of the board, contract templates are brought across a variety of districts to every governing board in January, February, and attempt to get these contracts out to the members of your constituency by late February, early March, so you can get contract signatures and then plan for positions that aren't filled. These contracts were legally reviewed by by our lawyers, Udall Shumway, and offer minimal changes to prior year contracts. And the biggest change in comparison to prior year contracts is preparing for if an aggregate expenditure limit is ever exceeded. They do not include amounts, these are templates. The raise package will get negotiated through the IBN process. And we aren't going to issue contracts yet in January. And the reason we're not going to issue contracts in January is because the next thing we have to do is get together a renewal list for you. And that renewal list will be to the board in February. And so the first step of the process is to get contracts approved by the board, the templates for the contracts approved by the board. And then the next step of the process is get a renewal approved to the board. One other item that you should note is districts that offer contracts early like this, Mesa Public Schools, Chandler Public Schools, districts that offer contracts early like this, often come back with amendments. And amendments are the process for modifying contracts as meet and confer and IBN go through their negotiations and process. They amend contracts that are already offered.
If I might add to that, it's important, as you all know, our challenges of hiring teachers at the beginning of the year. And so we're trying to make sure that we are ahead. And I've only been here a year and a half, but what I understand, we've never had contracts this early ready so that we can, if we do have positions to fill, to give some reassurance to our teachers that yes, you do have a position offered to you. So that's something that I think is really important in your decision with this particular.
All right. Any kind of motion?
I'll make a motion as presented to approve the template.
For a second.
Can I just to be very clear, it could be that it's 9:30 at night and I've been going since 4:30. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on the distinction between the template and the contract itself. We understand what I want to ensure when, better said, can you speak just a little bit on the distinction of the template and the contract itself? Is this, yes.
Mr. Kirby, templates get brought to the board, since you're aware of the language within the contract that we will then eventually offer the employee once the renewal goes through in February. So the renewal list will come to you in February for all employees we're recommending for renewal, the administration's recommending for renewal. Once we recommend those for renewal, the first contract, actually in most districts now, because the state budget runs so late, it'll run in May and June, is typically just a contract that puts the last year's amount onto a new year's contract. And then as you work through the IBN and meet and confer process, that's why you offer addendums to this template, is because the raise package gets determined as the state budget gets more and more solidified in the April, May legislative timeline. So this template will be, once the renewal list is offered in February, how the employees get their first contract for 23-24 amendments to follow.
And just to state very, very clearly, the question right now is the extent of the raise package rather than no one is moving backwards. And just to state it very clearly.
Correct. There's no intent within a growing school district to take salaries from current employees moving backward, but to be completely transparent, in this. Every contract I've ever dealt with, from Chandler Unified to Queen Creek Unified to down here, in Casa Grande, has language in it that if funds don't come through in the legislative process, the district holds the right to reduce salary. It also has the same exact language that if excess funds come in, and you saw it in the study session presentation, if excess funds come in, you have the right to take those excess funds and administer them to employees and salary. So it's the part of the issue is the legislative cycle runs late. The other part of the issue is you don't get contracts signed and get contracts signed early. You end up in a bad position for fully staffing your teaching staff in the next year. And most districts have a goal of having contracts out by February, while then being confer runs in February, March, April, May.
That's fine. I'll second Kelly's motion.
Any other discussion?
I'm just having a little bit of difficulty right now because there seems to be some discrepancy with our association members as to the language of the contract. I don't think they would be wasting their time to have a representative speak to tabling tonight if there weren't. And so I'm just having a little bit of a hard time in moving forward right now with that being
There was some discussion about the JROTC language.
The JROTC language is the same language that the JROTC instructor was offered in a prior year. That's the same, these contracts are nearly identical with some minor changes for the AEL, the aggregate expenditure limit. And the change on that side of the contract is that most districts are moving to saying, hey, we can't just tell you we can reduce your salary by 10% because if the state legislature doesn't pass the AEL, we're gonna have to reduce your salary by 25% because we won't be able to make budget because we're gonna have to reduce by a quarter of the school year because 17% of the funding goes out the window on March 1st. And so these contracts are very, very similar to prior year contracts. One thing UL Shumway did is they did take the teaching contract and they did reorganize it into categories because it was haphazardly, I'll just be frank, it was haphazardly put together with section 1, section 2, and then section 26 having to do with compensation. I'm making this up a little bit, but section 22 having to do with compensation when section 22 should have been in the same paragraph as section 6.
Yes.
So UL Shumway took those paragraphs, put them together and said, this is all really compensation related. Fringe benefits shouldn't be a paragraph 14. Fringe benefits should be a paragraph with paragraph 6 on compensation and salary. And so it's just a lot of it's reorganization with old and prior contracts. I'm certainly more than willing to bring these contracts, if approved, or even take it back to the IBM process and say, what are we concerned about if we're concerned about anything, and then bringing another item. But delaying this, I just need to be clear, delaying this till February means we're not getting contracts out till after spring break. Delaying contracts till after spring break means, guess what? We won't know our staffing until late April. And by the way, if we don't know our staffing until late April, you missed the hiring window. And then we're talking about I just started in July here. Then we're talking about, I entered here in July and we had a lot of positions to fill, and the people that were gonna fill those positions were already off the market and signed in other districts. So all I'm trying to do is help you understand downstream effects of having late
So we
contracts.
heard from the CGA president who was expressing some real concerns with the contract. We might consider running these things by and getting some last minute feedback to address their concerns, and possibly with the JROTC as the conflict that we have with the JRO, maybe there's something that we might be able to learn there.
If we did so, I would propose that we have a special meeting very soon, certainly prior to February, so as to ensure that we can avoid the staffing issues that may incur downstream.
We've heard that there's concern, and to not recognize those concerns and and at least give them a second look, I think is irresponsible.
Let me ask this question. If this agenda item were to be tabled, could we gather feedback in order to reconvene as early as next week? Is that pushing it far too quickly? I want to make sure that we can speak to these concerns and also avoid future staffing issues.
So they've already been through, Bill Shumway, our legal representatives. They've had my eyes on them. They've had comparison to last year's eyes on them, had the HR's eyes on them. So the only thing left would be to let CGEA, IBN process look at those and then get feedback from them on what adjustments. I will tell you that oftentimes elements brought up and we confer are not contractual issues. They are workplace condition issues that often are codified in contracts. They're codified in other elements of employee agreements. So, but I'm not adverse as long as we can. I just want everyone to understand the clear picture. If we don't get back to a special session in a decent time frame, we will eventually be in a staffing predicament.
I would support that, again, provided that we can get to a special meeting, and it would need to be next week, perhaps the week after. I think Dr. Trump would confer that that's pushing it. But we really want to avoid unintended consequences down the road.
No, thank you for that, Dr. Strom, and your request. We want to make sure that we have that, but again, I just want to remind us of, the decisions we make and how they may impact. Because what we don't want is to be here later and then there is a problem because we did not hire people in the right time. So I'm not connecting the dots. I appreciate the request. And again, just to be clear, that the contract, if I might ask you to repeat that again, there was no change to the JOTC contract. Is that correct, Mr. Dr. Strom?
Yeah, I'm looking at Mr. Casey because we both worked on these together. I think the JRTC was minimal changes.
That was probably the least
The least
changes
one
to that.
was that one.
With JOC, because it was just put in place last school year before.
That's correct. And legal counsel looked at it then and then adjusted it to reflect what the MIP recorded. So therefore, that's probably why there was no change after that. So thank you for that. And it'd be our pleasure to do that. And then I'll get with Dr. Strom, he'll get with our DN committee. And
We've got a
see-
motion on the floor.
And we'll see how quickly that.
You want to withdraw your motion?
Or do you want to amend the motion?
I'll amend the motion if we can. I would also, it would be wise, I think, to hold ourselves accountable perhaps to a meeting next week so as to give ourselves a deadline and avoid some of those down the road issues.
Yes.
If I could amend my vote, if I could request that you amend your motion, perhaps to include a special meeting a week from today at 6:30, please, so I have time to eat dinner.
It's only that item on the agenda, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All right.
Okay,
Mary,
Mr.
call the
Hayes,
question.
Yes, on the amended motion.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes, on the amended motion.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Ms. Harrington.
Yes.
Okay, the contract will go to CGA to be reviewed for any possible last minute changes and to be looked at by ROTC so we can make sure that side is satisfied and we'll move on. Thank you. We are at compensation consideration of all employees.
Mr. President, this was presented in the study session. The governor and legislature approved a base level increase to base level support for ADM from $4,445 to $4,775 in June of 22. The addition to base level support increased the M&O budget and CGUHSD by $1.8 million. Due to the M&O override currently being in jeopardy in 24-25 and beyond, the IBM team has worked through the negotiation process to reach consensus on recommending a one-time compensation increase for this school year, SY 22-23, in the amount of $1,560 per employee. And that's doable because of this base level support increase from $4,445 to $4,775. It will be prorated based on FTE, so basically if a half-time employee was there, $1,560 will become $780 because you're only a half-time employee. Quarter-time employee will become $390.
And to receive this one-time compensation increase, the employee must have been employed prior to January 11, 2023, and remain employed through a period of the administration of this one-time compensation increase. So we plan on administering this in March 11, so they have to remain employed as well. This will expend approximately $710,000 of FY 22-23 budget capacity after employer-related benefits are included, and is about 40% of the base level support increase when you look at it on a percentage basis of the amount of $1.8 million. The line item of the anticipated cost was provided in the study session. This increase is allowed under employee contract session of additional revenue, and to distribute any amount, the included prorated amount of employee must be employed with us prior to January 11, 2023.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion as presented.
I'll go ahead and second.
Been moved by Kelly and seconded by Taylor. Any discussion? None?
Mr. Hayes,
Call for question?
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now let's talk about PACE. As everybody's presented tonight, talking about the PACE project, it's been a project long in the making. The concepts of it, some things have changed from the beginning of what we envisioned it to be, but it is what it is right now, and we want to know. I think there's a lot of information that we feel we don't know about PACE. You disseminate a lot of information, and it may not have reached where it's intended recipient. So there's communication problem completely about how this project has evolved and what it's about and what it's going to do, and a lot of details. Over the last week, I sat down and started compiling the things that I don't know about it, and I come up with about 2.5 pages of concern. It may be the same concerns that the rest of the board has. I don't know. I would assume they probably are, because I don't recall hearing a lot of this stuff. But anyway, I've given everybody a copy of these concerns, and I've given you, Dr. Battle, a copy of those. And I would like for you and your team to address these concerns, and then come back to us at the earliest possible moment and make a presentation to us, and send us the presentation prior to this so we can study it and study the responses, and then we can look at your presentation, and we can ask whatever follow-up questions. Hopefully we can give an approval of sorts. Just say we're comfortable now, we got everything answered, and they make it perfectly clear. I'm not trying to kill this project. The mayor and I have been on this project since 2017, trying to put this thing in play. And we got a good start on it in 18 when Dr. Beebe got here, and we had a good roll on it, and COVID came along and killed it. We restarted again with Dr. Battle, but there was a lot that started happening that maybe we didn't follow along because it moved so fast and quickly. And that presents a problem when you're trying to keep up on a lot of the moving steps that are going on behind the scene, or sometimes you just don't bring everything to the front and to the board and get everybody's nodding of the head. So this is probably a time where we can gather all the information, and everybody will say, okay, I'm good with that. And so if you can put that together for us and come back at a meeting soon, and we can talk about it. Okay?
But if I could say just one thing before we
Okay.
go on. In regards to pace, one thing I've heard a lot and we heard a lot today was the need for a smaller school here in the Casa Grande area. As a teacher, I've taught a number of kids with special needs. And I believe that we have a duty as a board to ensure that we are serving all kids in our community. And I am frankly grateful that we have at the forefront here an opportunity to serve some kids that we would lose to other schools or lose to other cities. I want to just echo a little bit of what our mayor said. I think this is a really valuable opportunity. And as I think about the design of this school and what it can offer, I have students that I've taught in my head that I know with love to our current schools maybe would not have prospered at Union or Vista the way they could prosper at Pace. And so I welcome all clarification. I'm really grateful, Chuck, that you put this together. This is wonderful. Dr. Battle will have the chance and Crystal to clarify things. And I just want to reiterate that coming from me, I see this as a really valuable opportunity that can serve a lot of kids that I think that we have missed along the road thus far.
I agree with Taylor, and I just want to echo what the mayor said about the larger organizations that are watching us and commending us for this innovative school that we're putting together. We are building the path for something like this. I truly believe that. And so I understand Mr. Wright's concerns, and there are a lot of questions because it is a new concept. I think Crystal did a very good job today of answering some of the questions that have been floating around. Certainly there are more questions, but I do love the direction it's going. So I'm excited for it.
I know, I have not read the information that Chuck has presented, so I don't know whether this is on it or not, but it certainly is a concern that I have. And that is that my understanding currently is that this is a 4-year program and starts out with freshmen. My concerns would be after this program is done and over with at the end of 4 years, does the school district pick up the cost from that point on? And if they do, what is that cost going to be? And if we expand that program, again, do we pick up the cost for the expansion or is there some future?
Those questions are all in there.
All in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to do that?
I'll make a motion to ask Dr. Battle and her group to get back with us with the questions that we have on PACE.
Second.
I'll second.
Taylor seconded. Call for the question, Mary.
Okay, Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Ms. Harrington.
Yes.
All right, moving to the 8th consent agenda, items A through J. Is there a motion? Anybody want to pull anything out?
I'd like to do these individually. I will second that enthusiastically.
All right, been moved and seconded. Call for the question, Mary?
Okay, Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hunt,
Yes.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington.
Yes.
Again, I want to thank everybody here tonight that filled out a card and come forward and spoke in front of us and told us some not so nice things and told us some things that we needed to hear and some very valuable information. Sometimes it takes a conversation like this to get people to think. And I think that's what we intended to do was to get you riled up. And I think we got you riled up. And I think we're gonna make progress with this. So anyway, we're gonna adjourn. Move to adjourn.
Second. I like my move.
All right. We're out of here. Thank you. I hope you